Whether you're a Class 5 rafter or just looking for a couple of laughs, these two have you covered. Welcome to Aaron and Zach's Better Than Mediocre Rafting Show.
I love our intro so much. It makes me so happy. It was the best $40 I ever spent.
Yeah.
The happiness it brings me every week is amazing. Welcome everybody to Aaron and Zach's Better Than Mediocre Rafting Show, where we talk about rafting and videos or whatever we want to. Maybe we'll start talking politics here pretty soon, Aaron, if you want to talk about politics. Now let's avoid politics. We do this every Friday at 2 p.m. and it's fun for us. This is a thing where Aaron and I have these discussions anyway. So we thought, let's go live, share some videos. And for us, it's fun for us to catch up once a week. But we really love having comments for you guys watching. So if you're watching and want to add your 2 cents, we're not right about things. We're typically wrong, like way wrong. Like we're kind of morons. And so like we're gonna learn from your comments.
Whoa.
Right.
Come on,
we're not
man.
Morons?
Oh, you can talk about yourself all you want. You can say you're a moron, but
okay.
I mean, I'm not. I don't want to be put in that category. I don't.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm a moron. Aaron's better than mediocre. But please don't take this show as us just pontificating on what the answer is. This is our best opinions based off of our personal experience. Now, although I'm a moron and Aaron's better than mediocre, we do have a bit of experience.
Aren't we pontificating? Isn't that what we're doing, Zach?
We're not pontificating. I hope we're not. Maybe we are. We don't intend to pontificate. But I have been going on quite a few rants lately, so I'm trying not to go on rants. Anyway, we do this every Friday at 2 p.m. And we have members. So if you want to be a member, you pay a couple bucks a month, support the show, helps us do cool things with that money. But also if you just like and subscribe and watch it and communicate with us. And that makes us super happy. Hey, Jared, thanks for watching, man. Thanks for being part of it. We appreciate it. Thanks for the comment. Definitely appreciate it. So this week I have a couple of videos to review, and we're going to talk about training in general. And Aaron, you said some questions about wilderness.
Well,
so
let's
start with that.
Yeah, let's start with a couple questions on wilderness areas.
Okay.
Because I was a little confused on some stuff, and I was having a conversation the other day, and I was like, well, Zach claims to be an expert on wilderness.
I don't claim to be an expert on wilderness, but I might know the answers.
You kind of act like it every time I bring up wilderness. Like, read the act. It's in the act. So
yeah, I've read the act, so I know that much about it.
So I am in a wilderness area. Am I allowed to use an electric screwdriver?
Depends on the management plan for that wilderness area. There's nothing in the act that precludes it, but that specific wilderness area may have a management plan that precludes it. In the act, it specifically says, I'm trying to actually pull up we should just pull up the act, right? I'm looking for like a quick way to find. Here we go. I'm going to share screen. I'm not going to, I already had something shared, but I'll stop screen, share screen. Sorry, I shouldn't be talking this through. This is a copy of the act. It's really beautifully written. It's a really fun read, actually, for those of you that want to know about wilderness. And as acts go that do as much as it does, that's not that long.
No, it's pretty darn short. That's why I've looked it over, and I was like, well, it doesn't really say much about it in here.
It doesn't say you can't have an electric screwdriver in it, no. But what it does say, actually, wait a minute. Is this the act? I think this is the act. Yeah. It is the act. So somewhere in here, the words it says is no mechanized transport. So a screwdriver, although it's mechanized, is not mechanized transport. But each wilderness area has its own management plan. And so in that individual management plan, electric screwdrivers could be prohibited.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. My computer's got a little weird there. Okay. So yeah, going back to, sorry, got a little distracted by that. That was crazy with me. Okay. So the Wilderness Act, so it doesn't preclude it. So I thought there was something about like, you can't use, like most wilderness areas, it seems like you have to use hand tools to trail maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just because they're punks, or what's the deal? Why do they do that? That seems kind of crazy to me.
It's not in it. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good thing. We want to keep it primitive. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here about keeping the areas primitive, and so they're trying to remove motors and mechanical things. And so it doesn't specifically say in here you can't use chainsaws. I don't think it does. But it's within the spirit of the act. And it's even although it's not specifically in the act, it's sort of been like it's common practice to not allow motorized tools. And I agree with that.
Okay. So motorized tools in general, we'll just say for most it's not allowed then. Motorized tools, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think a motor every area is managed a little differently, and there's a line that's drawn, right? Like, can you have an electric toothbrush?
Well, that's where I was going, Zach. I've seen you use your electric toothbrush on the Illinois.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have. Yeah, I'm sure I did.
Aaron. I just got an electric toothbrush like 2 years ago. First of all, second of all, I only leave it at home. I don't bring it on trips. So you
let me rephrase it. It must have been someone else. Maybe it was I was working with someone on the subway and I saw them bring out an electric toothbrush and I was like, oh, is that even allowed in the Wilderness Act?
It's allowed. I mean, it's not each wilderness area. Like I know the Frank Church at some point, the Frank Church is the wilderness in Idaho, the big one. They at some point said you're allowed to only use motors powered by like 1.5 volts and above or something. So like what they didn't want was
1.5 volts or
less. Yeah. So what they were fighting then were battery powered showers. A lot of outfitters had battery powered showers, and that kind of to me, and the Forest Service I don't believe that battery powered showers is in line with the intention of wilderness. And so, although it's not specifically precluded in the act that you can't have battery powered showers, that specific wilderness area said, you know what, like let's draw the line here so that like it makes sense that you guys can have battery powered toothbrushes and like flashlights and just like small things, but there's a line in terms of motor size or battery power that says no, you can't do that. So like a battery powered blower is not allowed. It's over that line. The size of the battery is too big.
Okay. Yeah.
Unless what?
Right. Unless you got a small enough battery.
I don't know. I don't remember what that that regulation was a long time ago. And I don't know if it's actually in writing or what, but there's a line. There's a line that's like, let's be practical. Like people can still have good dental hygiene, but what we don't want are like motors and generators and just like, foo-foo stuff.
But I could use a propane powered refrigerator on the trip.
I mean, I think technically you could.
Okay.
I think, but if it started becoming a norm, they would look at that and be like, yeah, there'd be some like thing from the district or whatever saying, hey guys, come on, really stop doing that. It's not, there's a lot of stuff. Here's a line right here. Oops. I just went over it. A big part is, sorry, I don't know why it's doing that, but I was on this section here called, if you can see here, preserve its wilderness character.
Yeah.
And, so the idea of the act a lot of times is to preserve this wilderness character, the idea of wilderness. And when they wrote it in 1964, they weren't thinking about battery powered showers, electric toothbrushes, or even mountain bikes, right? Which are not allowed in wilderness. They were thinking about motorcycles and trucks and things like that. And so they've had to sort of adapt, like drones. Drones aren't specifically precluded in the act, but they're not allowed. I'm trying to find the part that talks about mechanized transport.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. That's the best description I've heard about like why electric toothbrushes are allowed in wilderness areas. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, do you agree that like a place can maintain its wilderness character if people have their electric toothbrushes? Like that's not going to affect my wilderness experience or the idea of being in a primitive area untrammeled by man. Right. So like here, the definition of wilderness is really good, right? And I don't want to read this out loud, but this definition kind of tells you the intent of the place. And so like the number one part, it generally appears to have been affected primarily by the forces of nature, with the imprint of man's work substantially unnoticeable, has outstanding opportunities for solitude or a primitive, unconfined type of recreation. I mean, that's a big thing. And a big part is, which is protected and managed. Yeah, which is, I mean, this whole section about it's defined as undeveloped federal land, retaining its primeval character and influence, without permanent improvements or human habitation, which is protected and managed so as to preserve its natural conditions. And a big part too is that it's an area where Earth and its community of life are untrammeled by man, where man himself is a visitor who does not remain. So, I mean, it's within the spirit of this. So, like an electric toothbrush, I can still have it doesn't affect the landscape. It doesn't affect other people's experiences. It's still a primeval place. As soon as I bring in a battery powered shower, does it really go with the spirit of this definition? I would say no.
What about a stereo?
I mean, I really don't like music on the river. Okay, let me phrase that. I like music on the river sometimes. I don't like other people's music on the river.
Yeah, agreed.
So, like, if I'm by myself and I'm playing, some Def Leppard, like, I'm stoked. That's a fun time for me. But I don't want to impose my music on other people. And so, I think stereos are fine to have, but I think that's disrespectful of other people's experience to be playing music. The hot topic. I actually was on a trip this summer on the Rogue. We were at camp in the morning, and another commercial company speedboat went by blasting the most obnoxious music I think is possible. It was just like at 10 in the morning while we're still in camp. Our guests we're on a music trip. Like, we have bluegrass music. It's a very like liberal and very respectful group. And so somebody comes down going by our camp in the morning, blasting their music as they go by. And I yelled down, like, hey, would you mind turning that down? Didn't even think about it. Didn't even look. It's pretty frustrating.
Maybe the person couldn't hear you because the music was so loud.
No, they I know for a fact they hear me.
We've got a couple of interesting questions here.
All right. What do we got? So Jan I love your name, whatever that is. I love 2 dots over the O. We don't really care in the US if you have an I mean, I care as my company, but like IRF doesn't really matter to people in the US. So that's to me, that shows a level of competence, but it's not that important to most outfitters. The issue is going to be a visa. And like, I've had a lot of international people apply this year, and I've never done visas, and I'm not willing to do them, but there are some outfitters that do. I'm not sure if I want to mention them on the thing.
I feel like a lot of it's day trips. Companies that run day trips in general, they seem to be more inclined to do that, to get some more experienced people out there. And so I'd say like the South Fork of the American seems like there's routinely people on visas working there. Are there any rivers in Oregon where you routinely see people on visas? Yeah,
I mean, there's some rogue outfitters that bring in people from other countries.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
So it's starting to become a little more of a thing. I know Momentum brings a lot of people over on visas. And I mean, one of the reasons that the owner tells me is that, international, like American guides sometimes don't give the level of service that people from other countries can. If you live in another country, you've been trained in hospitality and things, where in the US, people that become guides didn't get like a training in hospitality. They went to guide school. Right. And so I think it's easier to find like a more professional, higher, like a type of guy, not saying more professional, but willing to provide a higher level of service. And by service, I mean like pouring wine in people's glasses, setting up all their stuff. Like, and one thing is just like knowing about wines. When you serve a wine as a guy, you can pour it in a glass. You can say, oh man, this is a fine Zinfandel that will pair nicely with your salmon. Details like that like, I think we don't have. Anyway, I'm on a crazy aside right now.
No, I think it's just kind of fitting of what we're going into a little bit today. But Zach, I think having worked internationally, I'll say for a lot of, I think this is much more common internationally than I see in the U.S. is that a lot of international, more of them, or maybe it's just the ones I work with, look at it as a career, and it's a well-paying career in a lot of countries. Like, you can make good money. It's a respected career. Like, they go to college to do this. While here, it's like in the U.S., yeah, it's what bums do. Like that's kind of more that mentality. I feel like it's not like, oh yeah, this is the way I'm going to be able to support my family, so I'm going to become a guide. Well, I think that is true other places. So yeah, I think there's a lot of levels to it. And I think there's some sense in what you're saying that outfitter is saying about bringing in international guides.
And I'm going to make a major generalization here, major stereotype and generalization, but I'm going to do it because I don't know. I'm not afraid to say words. I would say most international guides are better at providing service. If you know what that means, do things that a lot of American guides are kind of a little bit unwilling to do. Like I'm better. I shouldn't have to do these things, where more international guides are more willing to provide like service and call people sir and ma'am and be like that. But I think American guides, in my experience, are generally more interested in sitting down with guests and having a conversation. I think international guides, when they're done, they'll go eat separately. Like they don't necessarily want to mingle with the guests. They want to provide service for the guests and then be on their little world. Where American guides there's a massive stereotype, massive generalization. Consider part of their job spending time with the guests and playing games with them and going on hikes with them. And so I think that's a generalization that I've seen working internationally in the US.
I think that's a spot on one, actually. I think, yeah, clearly there's the variation wherever you go, but definitely have noticed that there's much more of a like it's an us thing with a lot of the US guides versus like we're all in this together, doing this trip together. And then internationally, it's like, hey, I'm providing the service. It's more like I'm a waiter at the restaurant. You guys are having this meal, and I'm here facilitating the experience for you.
And the guides go eat separately in a circle.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. So in the US, in general, we eat with the guests, we share stories. Internationally, the guides provide dinner and then they go in the circle and this is their time to themselves. They separately eat. And would rarely come over and join people. Just a minor thing. Sorry, Jan, we're on a tangent. I mean, it's really easy to get a job in the USA. I mean, honestly, like look like a guide and show up, and that's all you need to do. Like you don't have to really prove any what's the word? Skills. Am I right, Aaron?
I mean, it depends where you want to work, who you want to work for, what you're wanting to do. I think there's, the better the trip that you're getting to work and the better the company you're wanting to work for, the more you're going to have to show some experience. But just like,
but you have to show it on paper. You have to demonstrate that experience.
I think both.
But demonstrating, like you have to demonstrate by going on a trip and like showing you can get a boat down the river, where there's no exam.
Yeah. No. You show it in practice. You get out there and you're just
you
like,
show up, they hire you, and you're on. You probably do some training trips, and they're like, okay, this person knows how to get a boat down the river. That's it. You don't have to prove to anybody you can throw a throwback typically, or I don't know, answer.
No, you need to be able to get the boats rigged. You need to be able to get the boat set up for putting. You need to be able to get your crew trained up. You got to get the boat down the river. I mean, we're talking single day trips. And the multi-day, you got to know where you're on camp and be able to set up a camp scene, take care of guests, do that stuff.
Yeah. So there's no exam. And usually they're managed by state. So like any qualifications to be a guide comes from the state. So Oregon is different than Idaho, which is different than California. California is the easiest state to be a guide in.
Zach, having said, there is a test to guide in the Grand Canyon.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
A written test.
Yep. There's a written test. And you got to know what fire extinguisher you need with motor rigs, and you need all sorts of random stuff. Yeah, there is one there. So, and if there's one there, then I'm guessing Dinosaur does something similar because Dinosaur kind of copies Grand Canyon and everything.
I mean, they're both national parks. So
yeah.
They'll probably do something.
But you do have to pass a test for Grand Canyon. Like it used to be administered by the Park Service. Then they had the outfitters take it over a few years ago. And I mean, you're supposed to take it over a few years. It's pretty lax. It's not that hard. I'm gonna say if you can't pass the test.
Hey, the guide quiz I came up with that we talked about a lot a year or two ago. I'm surprised how many people didn't pass that.
It's an interesting point. Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan. I mean, they'd be fun. It'd be fun. I mean, that's a good idea. It's a good idea. If you know of any, let me know. Wilderness managers. Yeah, it'd be interesting. Jared, yeah, Jan's overqualified. Yeah, I mean, Jan, I think an IRF guide 4, you could work a lot of places here.
And as Jared is saying, right now there's definitely a shortage of guys in the US. This is if you're choosing a season to say, hey, I want to try to work in the US, they're need of experienced guides.
Yeah.
So,
The hard part's the visa. The visa is gonna be the hard part. Because I think the employer has to do all that paperwork, and it's expensive to get visas for people. So I think that's the tricky part.
All right. So that was a good little tangent there. Now getting back onto getting back to the original thing. We're gonna watch some video here. You got some wind footage for us today, Zach?
I mean, I know how much you don't like it, so I don't have any. No.
Yeah, man, I'm almost a little disappointed that I can't talk trash about wind footage.
So this, first of all, let me give some context. You can't. I can pull some up. I can pretty easily bring up some wind footage. I think we're there tomorrow, so I'll try to get some more. First of all, this looks. The video itself is already pixelated. This is from Facebook. From that, there's a Facebook group called Bad Whitewater Rafting Advice. Have you heard of this?
No.
Yeah, there's also bad kayaking advice, and so it's like a thing that people are into. And basically, somebody made you make passive aggressive comments and then post something. And so the passive aggressive comment is something like, what happens when you go on the river and don't tell anybody you're going and have no downstream safety. So this sounds like this person was like, from the comment, I was a little cryptic, was a little nervous, so they just put on before anybody was ready for them to put on. Those kind of trees in the river too, like that's nasty. I don't know where this is, or if anybody knows where this is.
It looks like Idaho.
It does, but where? And it looks like it's an overnight because they have a lot of stuff. He's not rowing; he's just holding on to one oar. And now holding on to no oars. Look at that!
Oh! 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 Oh!
Oh! And then, who knows what other trees are downstream?
Oh!
It's pretty funny. I'm gonna give it the sad emoji. I mean,
he looked like he just went straight into it, like he wasn't even trying to avoid it.
Watch here. I mean, he's trying to pull, and then an oar. Let's see, it's 2 oars. Now popped an oar, so 1 oar popped. Lost his angle. Let me pause it. Yeah,
that is gnarly. Oh,
that's what happens when you lose an oar, and then just lets go the other oar and holds on. Yeah, so that's the first one I wanted to share today.
Well, I think, are we going to talk about this a little bit? I think this is a good rule. When you see the water flowing through trees, like at that level, in that manner, that's the time to be like, maybe shouldn't be going downstream.
What are you going to do? Portage?
Wait.
Oh, yeah.
Wait. Don't put on. Don't launch.
Oh, well, maybe they didn't. I mean, yeah. No, I think. I mean, gosh,
that water's over. In some ways, it looks like it's overbank full. It's kind of weird, actually. It's a weird scene because it looks like there's gravel bars, but it's still in the trees somehow. So it's kind of an odd look to it.
I here's what I think happened, and I guess neither of us know. But I think that looked like there's maybe a landslide or something. Like that happens when there's some sort of landslide that reroutes everything. So it didn't look like super high water to me. It just looked like there was a newly formed rapid.
And Middle Fork Salmon Lake Creek 2007 is actually a really good guess. That's that. Do you see that one comment? That's actually.
There's a comment.
Yeah. That makes sense to me because it looks like Idaho. It looks like
it wasn't that though. It wasn't. I'm sure that I don't think that was Middle Fork Salmon Lake Creek. It was 2006, I believe. Actually, the Pistol Creek thing happened.
Ooh.
I'm pretty sure it's 2006. But I think that didn't look like Lake Creek to me. It did look like Idaho, like maybe some fork of the Boise or something. I've been on a few Idaho rivers where there's recent landslides, and I mean that's.
But they were also outfitted for multi-day, so that's where they had a lot of outfitting on there.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the Boise. Is there a multi-day run that people do on the Boise regularly?
I think there's some upper East Forks, or I think there's something, maybe something in Montana. I don't know.
The tree floating just behind the boat. What's he talking about? The tree floating just behind the boat. Oh, we've already moved on.
Let's move on.
Okay.
I have this stuff on do. I'll tell you what. It was next year. Oh yeah, that's true. So what happened was it happened in 2006, but it was still messed up in 2007. It was still really nasty. Good point. So although the log jam happened in 2006, there was still a ton. Like the logs got moved, but there's still a bunch of logs. You're like zigzagging through trees and logs. But I don't think that was Pistol. I could be wrong though. I'm wrong all the time.
Pistol or Lake Creek?
Lake Creek. I mean, the same thing. It was all at that point. Like the whole Lake Creek to Pistol was just one disaster area. So I call it Pistol, but it was Lake Creek that blew out, and then there were trees scattered up and down the whole. Like down trees are scattered all the way down the river, and then the river was diverted through trees like that. So you were avoiding vertical trees and trees on the side of the river. It was really.
I'm going to say
full on.
I think the Mill Fork of the Salmon is best guess on that. By far.
Okay.
I bet I think that's a great guess. I don't know for sure. I think that's what it is. I'm going with BW.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, just because like look at that cat boat, the way it was set up, it was set for a longer multi-day trip.
It's definitely a multi-day trip.
And it looks like the scene, and that's a place where people get themselves in trouble because they want to go do their Middle Fork. And it explains it too, is because it's like it's not bank full, but it looks bank full because the water's going through the trees. Now all of a sudden that makes sense. Because I was like, man, don't go out when it looks like that. But it was kind of weird. There's like gravel bars around, so it's something that flooded out and pushed some water where it wasn't before. So
I'm watching it again right now. Sorry, like not through the thing. It's probably Lake Creek now that I'm looking at it.
All right, nice job, BW.
Yep.
All right,
but I my guess, yeah, man, I think it's 2000. I mean, detail it's 2006. Like it's pretty soon after it happened. Like it's not a year later, because it
was changing too. So different times of year, it's going to look different, right? It was always changing every.
Well, I mean that I didn't run it in 2006 but we always flew in below it after it happened, and I ran it in 2007, and it didn't quite look like that. It looked a little different, but anyway, good BW and good eye. I totally missed that, but with that, now that I look at it, you're right. Okay, let's move on to this video, and then we'll get into training stuff. And Jan Thorbjorn, hopefully I pronounced that right. Thanks for chiming in. We'll get to training stuff here in a second. I just have one more video I'm going to share. This one is, you already know what's going to happen because the title. Have you seen this before, Aaron?
Mm-mm. Oh, this looks like a nasty spot. Ugh.
This is, first of all, it's Russia. I think Siberia.
Kayaker rolls up.
You can tell he's not a good paddler right away, right? Like he's just kind of, his paddle strokes aren't great.
He does a good job of leaning in there. No. Oh. Where's he? What? He's stuck underwater right there? Oh my God. Oh. Dude, that is quite the rescue right there.
Oh, it's not done yet.
Oh, geez. Oh, don't. No, don't.
Are you worried about him knocking over the kayak right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. That's the first thing I thought of, is that kayaker with no helmet is super exposed. I mean, it's Russia, so this is...
But they got some nice sweet gear though. Like those are nice life jackets, nice kayaks, nice spray skirts. That's a dry suit bro's got on there. Oh, that is jacked.
So I've watched this one a few times, and I'll tell you what the problem is his life jacket's caught on something. So some part of his life jacket. So that's man-made, right? They're on something man-made. Hopefully that was obvious. Like there's barrels, like there's a man-made thing. And so, when I teach rowing, one of the big things is you just avoid man-made things. Like anything man-made, just avoid it. Like there's no reason to go through man-made things because there's screws sticking out. There's unnatural things that like rocks usually you go by, but there's probably something that could catch your life jacket in an unexpected or anything in an unexpected way.
You remember the guy we had on who talked about practicing taking your life jacket off in the river?
Yeah.
I mean,
this could be that spot.
Yeah. Does he have a swim cap on?
Yeah, isn't that a skull cap? It's basically a skull cap.
I think it just looks like it looks like one of those swim caps you use for swimming. You tuck your hair underneath.
Here's a good comment. River scarf got caught. He said scarf later. That's a good one, Peter. Oh, nice burn. Nice burn.
Oh, it's hard to laugh right now. That is really funny, Peter. But man, this is so scary.
I mean, it's terrifying because he's starting to get tired. Like he's going to start getting more and more tired. And the people, man, my worry too is the river coming up. I mean, he's barely a head above water, and what if the river is coming up for some reason? Like,
I mean, it's weird. Is like, I wonder what the audio is like, asking like, "Hey, where are you stuck? What's going on?"
Well, it's in Russian, so if I played,
yeah, no, that's what I mean. We couldn't hear.
But what they were saying, yeah, like what's going on? What are you feeling?
Yeah, where are you? What's stuck? Yeah, I mean, and he's got. You know what? The other tough thing is that if you had a front zip jacket, it'd be way easier to get out.
Would you? It's like, would you get him out of the jacket? I guess downstream it doesn't look bad.
If I knew.
Do you know? And the other thing is, do you know for sure? I mean, does he know for sure the life jacket's attached? Could it be part of his dry suit or something else?
If you knew the jacket, if you knew it was a jacket, you could reach down and you could feel with your hand, like, hey, my life jacket's stuck. I mean, I think you could take a knife. Like this, think you could take a knife too and cut that thing. But yeah, I mean, oh gosh, this is scary. Yeah, I'm surprised. Do they have a rope on him? I want to get like a rope around him or something like that.
I think that's. I agree. Right? Like really stabilize him. Get a rope under his shoulders.
Yeah, exactly.
Just really have somebody's job. Your job is to stabilize this person.
Yeah. Oh, whoa! He can get his leg up there. That's weird. It's so weird. Yeah.
This is when it's getting scary because he's either getting tired or the river's coming up. Like he's starting to go further down. Yeah, so here they go. Come SP50. Now look at that knife. Do you see that knife they have?
That was sick. Yeah.
This isn't. I mean, this is where like I'm gonna tell you, half the river knives out there cannot cut through a PFD. That knife can. You're in Siberia. They have the knife. That thing's like a sickle. But like a lot of you should look at your knives. That's
an interesting point. I always think about cutting rope. Never thought about for something like this.
You have a knife, but if it can barely cut rope, it's not going to cut a life jacket or any other kind of things you get stuck on.
I'm gonna say like they've done a damn good job of like keeping him, keeping his head above water. Yeah. Like no one looks like they've gotten into a sketchy spot. Well, this looks kind of sketchy now. Oh, there we go.
There we go. Oh, a carabiner on a rope tied to something to stabilize him. What do you think about that? Look at all that stuff under there. I mean, to me, I'm pretty confident.
Look at that shack.
I can make this move 100% portage. This shack in the way to me is a 100% portage.
Did they get him?
I think he's out. That sickle knife really did it.
That's an interesting thought of having to cut something like that. Yeah.
Man, look at that. If he went under the thing, it's the end. Right. Like at least he didn't go under the cabin, the floating cabin.
Yeah. Well, now he doesn't have a life jacket. But I guess I didn't have a helmet, so.
Yeah, he's like, hey, let me go save my buddy. Let me take my helmet off first. I'm a little bit hot. And this is a good. I've watched this whole thing a few times. This is worth watching. The aftermath of this stuff is pretty. It's a good reminder. This is where you see like, damn, he is not doing well.
Oh, down here you see him again.
Yeah. Like this stuff can happen fast and things get serious.
Yeah, I used to work trips at the college with this guy who did show these Swiftwater. He showed some videos where people die in them. And in some of the places where people died, it's gnarly, but it's like they look pretty benign. And you're like, whoa, someone just died there. Like it was scary. It's like, oh, I don't know if I'd show those. It was an interesting, but I mean, it hit home, and that's what he says. He's like, hey, that's not for fun, but his life jacket's still on.
Yeah, I think they cut part of it off. Maybe I don't know. I don't think I ever saw what happened to get the life jacket undone.
I wonder if his tail got snagged on something, or is he alive?
Yeah, this is just tired and scared.
Yeah,
probably a lot of adrenaline. But the one thing too for me is, when this sort of stuff happens, I try to I've never been around anything this bad, so I guess I shouldn't say when this kind of stuff happens. But when bad stuff happens, I try to avoid everybody just staring at the person. Like, let's put enough people there to provide safety and care. But like while the aftermath is happening, like let's separate people from just staring, because the guy, when he finally can look around, he's going to be super nervous because everybody's like,
yeah, I think it doesn't look that bad to me, Zach. I feel like there's a couple guys with them, and they're just like, and the other guys are in the boats. They're kind of like, hey, we're trying to figure out what to do here. Trying to warm him up. Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, I appreciate having the video, but the guy with the camera on him right now, in my mind, that's the thing that I'd be most annoyed about. So yeah, hey man, let him be. But it's nice that we have it now, so we can talk about it. So
yeah, just like it's a good reminder of like the reality of boating. Like this stuff can happen fast, and it's super scary. And glad that one turned out okay. I want to take this opportunity to talk about knives again. And I'm about to do a whole gear garage on knife selection.
Oh yeah,
I have a thing in front of me that has all like the things I think are important for knife selection. So there are bars on the river. I don't know. There's a lot of rivers in Russia. A lot of bars. There's a lot of rivers, not a bars. So it seems like
bars, like not bars of metal that people can get trapped in, like bars you can hammer drinks.
Yeah. When we were in Bosnia, there were some bars next to the river. You can pull over and have a beer a few places. But I'm sure in Russia there's stuff. The interest pocket. I know. I here's the review. Don't get it.
Why? Because it's NRS. Because it's NRS.
I've seen it. Don't get me started. I don't want to get into this. But my favorite knife right now, I'll show you, by far, is this Spyderco. It's the Atlantic Salt. Look at this bad boy. That is going to cut through a PFD. I mean, that's a full serrated edge. Yeah, it's high quality Spyderco.
Through their neck. And you're going to cut their carotid artery.
You can be careful. But I mean, this to me, it has a nice straight edge. I think one of the issues with knives, this is another one I've shown before. I like that it's straight. When they curve, what I'm talking about? When they curve backwards like this, it loses some of your cutting power. Like you want to just rip it out instead of having it cut down. So like a nice straight edge. I even have a knife that has a little curve to it, which I think, like the Bear Claw. Here's a Bear Claw. I got all these knives in front of me getting ready. Yeah. The Bear Claw has the curve, which I think is pretty nice. Not always nice, but after I have tons of river knives in front of me because I've been testing them all and thinking about river knives. This long, straight, fully serrated edge with the Spyderco steel. This thing is amazing. Really,
I think I like a little bit of a upturn at the end is nice. Going, blade side A little bit of a sickle style.
Hold on, I have that one over here. Let me grab it. This, like this one?
Yeah, I think that's a little extreme, but a little bit of that. I think I like a little bit of that. That's a little more extreme than I want.
It is a little extreme. I agree. The problem to me with the sickle thing is they rarely have blunt tips.
Yeah.
So this one you can use to poke a bear. Or this one, I personally prefer having a blunt tip. So this one has a blunt tip. But this thing is a sweet knife. It's $100-something. It's not cheap. But if you want to be able to cut through your life jackets and ropes, you gotta spend.
Because I'm always cutting life jackets off of people, Zach.
You're fine. You can get all the NRS knives you want.
I like the Gerbers. I'm sticking with the Gerbers.
This one?
Yeah, that's a nice one. I know, but I don't use folding because I don't have good pockets for folding.
Yeah,
I have to use
that's
the
your
sheath
problem.
knife. Well,
this Gerber,
because all the high flotation vests, Zach, do not have good pockets for folding knives.
Yep, you're right.
So you got to choose. Do I want to have a folding knife and a low float jacket, or do I want to have a high float jacket and a non-folding knife?
I think that you're right. I think that go high float jacket, non-float folding knife. I'm with you on that. This Gerber is the one I've used most of my career since I decided I didn't like external knives. And they're really close. The Gerber is actually like this cut's better for sure, but this is pretty close. This is like $35, $120. So if you want really good, this one's sweet. If you want the best, you want to spend the money.
What's the little thing on the back of the Gerber for?
What thing?
The little cut notch in the back of the handle.
This?
No, down at the bottom of the handle. Yeah, is it the button? Okay, I can't.
Yeah, this is the button right here.
Oh, yeah, it's the button, the release button.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And I mean, the thing about the Gerber is we're getting it out. It's not too bad. It has this nice area, but getting the Spyderco out with one hand, it's way more efficient. It's just a little bit better. So I don't know, it's just slightly better, 3 times the cost.
I think we need to rename our show Zach's Knife Rafting. Knife.
I'm almost done with knives because I've reviewed a bunch of them.
No, you're gonna find more, Zach. You're gonna make another one.
People keep sending me knives to test, and I'm like, all right, this was the ultimate one. I get it. I'm like, nah, that's not that good. So I think I'm done. I want to be done with knives because it's getting to be expensive. Like buying these knives. I mean, I have $500 worth of knives in front of me right now for Gear Garage.
Maybe you need to start wearing them all on your life jacket at the same time.
That's funny. We did a Tuesday live show with Dougie Fresh.
Yeah.
And knives came up again, of course. And I compared how people dress to Raft to Napoleon. It's probably a bad comparison. I'm trying to think of a better comparison, but you know how like when generals who win wars, they go to formal events and they have like a saber and all the medals and they have like little like shoulder epaulets. I feel like when people go boating, they like all the stuff to be like Napoleon a little bit. They got to have their big river knife and they got to have their whole like their tail that goes around and attaches high, sort of like in the army we had those like whatever those like big epaulette things on our uniforms and I got in, like all the medals. They got to have like carabiners and all the stuff.
Like the Boy Scout sash and the Boy Scout.
Yeah. It's like dressing up for Boy Scouts. You got to have all your awards and show them like I've been through battle. And so I made this comparison to Napoleon's a bad comparison, for sure. Okay, so I'm probably offending a lot of people right now.
Maybe stick to the Boy Scouts. I don't know. Is that less offensive? Yeah. Whoa, what is this?
Would people rather be compared to a Boy Scout or Napoleon?
Well, here's the question: Is the purpose of it to insult people so they don't do that?
It's
is
not.
It because are we trying to change behavior? Because I think all that stuff dangling off you is a safety issue.
But that's what I'm saying is like it's like formal wear. It's like this is an opinion. I don't mean to offend everybody. I'm really sorry. Some people. No, I really don't want to. I apologize. I don't want to offend anybody. I'm just going to say what I think. I think some people want to wear their formal wear. They want to look formal and cool. So like a general is going to look the part with all the stuff. a Navy SEAL is not going to wear all that stuff. That Navy SEAL is slick and simple, and like all their stuff's there. It's just like well thought out and contained. And so I think it's a difference between being like an officer and enlisted sometimes. Like an officer is going to have all the fluff, where the enlisted soldier is going to have just like is being camo and have everything in like well organized in pockets and trained on how to use it. It's a theory. I'm working on this comparison.
That's an interesting comparison. Yeah, I don't want to go too far down this path at the moment. Let's move on to your cool little.
Why not start in this path?
I don't know. It's just like
because we're offending people.
No, not at all. Who's the okay? We'll go down the path. Who's the?
We don't have to.
When we take this analogy to rafting, I don't understand. Is the general the person who's driving shuttle?
No, the general is like the trip leader who, I don't know, just like a trip leader who wants to look cool,
but in reality is not prepared to do battle with the river.
I mean, I wouldn't say battle with the river. I think that's a bad comparison. But like, yeah, it's like I'm looking for the NRS pocket cycle too. I think this is the one. Hold on. Sorry, I can't help myself. Let me stop sharing this thing. We're almost done with this, everybody. Don't get the training. Sorry. This is just too hard to.
No, it's Zach's knife special.
I think this is the pocket stickle.
Oof.
I think this is what he's talking about. The NRS captain rescue. Again, like a captain is an officer, but this is a folder, I believe.
It's interesting. It's got the square, the square end that you like.
Mm-hmm.
It's a folding knife. I'd say the serrated looks a little short.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how that part of the end cuts. I'd be curious. Zach, you gotta buy it now.
I can't do it. It also has the signature thing all NRS river knives have is a bottle opener on it, which is just to me so offensive. But that's an opinion. I apologize to everybody for having opinions. The classic. Hey, let's add a bottle opener to our safety item. All right, let's move on. I'm already offended half the people watching. All right, so Aaron, your idea for a show was to talk about whitewater training a little bit, and so
yeah, exactly. Go for it.
While I was on 7 hours of Zoom calls yesterday, I made this, and this is just my first attempt. And it's kind of fun to make. And I'm sure I'm missing things. But I'll explain it, and then you can tell me where I made mistakes. And anybody can chime in and tell me where I made mistakes. I think there's 3 different types of boaters out there, as I think about this, who need different training. Kayakers, professional river guides, and then private boaters who don't kayak. Private boaters, so it's like private kayaking, private rafting, professional guides. And they take different paths for training. And the more I thought about this, I thought, well, you don't want all the training at the beginning because you need a little bit of experience to understand some of the training, right? Like if you had never been kayaking and took a rescue class, it's really hard to understand the context of the class. You need some experience and practice before you take the rescue class, right? Like IRF too, like if you look in professional guiding, the IRF, you couldn't take that. They won't let you take it as a new guide, right? You have to have experience to even take that. And then they test you on that experience. So that's what I did here. And I also, as I thought about it, realized before you even get into these things, you have to have some physical fitness and you have to be able to swim. You don't have to, but you really kind of have to. You kind of do. I debated this for a bit. I realized like, the base foundation is some physical fitness and some level of swimming.
I think ideally that's true, Zach. I think, you don't have to do it, but that's ideal. And we're talking, I think this is looking at ideal, the ideal situation. Because like not everyone goes this route. Like all professional guides don't start off with a professional guide school. I know a fair number of people who didn't go to a guide school, who are guides, who are really good guides, and they don't start off that way. So I think there's I think this is an ideal route, and it's really like, I think this is also to talk about knowledge base, and I think going back to the fitness and swimming ability is an important part of the conversation.
I'm gonna get to Steve's your thing in a second. This is hard for me because you kind of need to know how to swim, but there are people that boat that can't swim, and I don't want to say you have to be able to swim to go boating, but maybe you should. I don't know. It's a tough thing. Like because if you stay in the boat and you have people around you that can rescue you, I mean, sure.
Here's a question, Zach. Would you rather have a fit person who can't swim or a person who can swim who isn't fit?
I'd rather have a fit person that can't swim.
I mean, I had a woman who wanted to go on Cherry Creek who amazing paddler. And we had a really kind of a strict thing there that you had to pass a swim test.
Yeah.
She couldn't swim. And I felt real bad, but she was an incredible paddler and she kind of knew the risk. And this was kind of our overall theme. And so okay, we followed it and didn't let her go. But I would have felt comfortable taking her on the river, much more comfortable taking her than other people who have the swimming
can pass a swim test, but you're like, man, dude,
they don't have the fitness. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, for those of you that don't know Cherry Creek, just so I explain it, you launch on Cherry Creek proper. It's actually called Cherry Creek when you launch, and you do about a mile of class 3+ easy 4. And at the end of that, the guides require you to do a swim test where Cherry Creek meets the Tuolumne River. And what part of the swim test is swimming under the raft to prove your ability to make progress in swimming. And whatever, it costs $200 to do Cherry Creek. It's probably $400 now. It's expensive to do Cherry Creek. And if you don't pass the test, you can't go. And the guide can nix you for any reason, right? Or you say for any reason, the guide can say, I don't want that person.
Yeah, totally. If we tell you, yeah, there's no discussion. If you're told no, and you talk about that mile, the class 4 going down, you're running to rocks on purpose, trying to make sure people can hold their position in the boat. Can they follow commands? Can they listen? Can they do what they need to do? And that's one of the reasons you'd kick someone out if they're falling all over the boat, they're going to be a danger to themselves and others. So yeah, and the swim training is important. Okay, can you get yourself out of the current? Because there's not always gonna be a raft there. And I'll say most of the time I've seen people swim, a lot of the people self-rescue. It's amazing how many of them are able to self-rescue and get themselves to shore.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think I agree with this. I don't want to be a hard ass. It's like you have to be able to swim. Because I'm a hard ass too much of the time. I want to be kind of cool sometimes, well, whatever. But I think this explains how I feel. If you're a passenger, but if you're in charge of people, if you flip, you have to get back to your boat.
You can also learn to swim as an adult. There's adult swim classes. You can learn to swim.
That's kind of when I did this, Aaron. I realized I did this and I added fitness and swimming ability at the end. I was like, because that's training. Fitness is training. Swimming ability is training. So before you even go to kayak school or guide school, you should start with fitness and swimming ability. That's step 1.
Yeah, totally.
I'm not going to say you can't swim, you can't go boating. I'm not going to say if you're not physically fit, you can't go boating. But if your goal is to train and be a better boater and improve your boating, these are 2 key parts of training: fitness and swimming ability.
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, I think any physical activity, fitness is part of the game, and any water-based activity, swimming ability should be part of your game too. If you're going to sail, probably want to know how to swim. Yeah, you don't need to, but probably best. And I'm going to say this, when you talk about swimming too, we're talking about being able to swim with a life jacket on. Make progress with a life jacket on and go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not you have to go swim a mile. Yeah.
But being able to swim a mile helps. I mean, let me give my perspective. I've been doing swim tests lately for IRF stuff, and I've been swimming more personally. And I used to be really good at swimming in rivers. And lately I'm like, man, I didn't catch the 80 I thought I could catch. My swimming has gotten worse. And so this winter, one of my things, I'm going to go to the pool and swim. That's training that will help my swimming. With you can't. I guess I could go put a PFD on and swim in the river all day, but for me to improve my swimming, I have to do that in a pool. So you train in a pool, so you can get better with or without a PFD.
But I think your standard, Zach, is a lot higher than the standard we're talking about at the base level of swimming ability, too. And I think being stronger is good. Being able to catch all those stuff at ease, yeah, that's great. But there's a base level, just being able to swim yourself to shore. You know what I mean? In like current, but not huge hydraulics, just to be able to swim yourself to shore. Then there's like the next step. And I think the harder you want to raft, the better your swim skills need to be as well. And the better your fitness needs to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I think a lot of questions about that. Let's get to them. I think so. Peter makes a good point. Training can look different now. And you can learn a lot online, right? Like we're online right now training, but I mean,
and you could take Zach's online rafting class.
Yeah. You could sign up for my $400 online rowing class, which is really good. I'm going to say it's worth more than that. It's really, really good, but it's $400. So, I mean, gotta be rich, I guess. But, there's a lot of information online, but there's some bad stuff too. Like earlier, we probably gave people a ton of bad information. The NRS sickle knife is probably the best knife ever made, right? This is just our opinions. So you gotta know who. I mean, yeah, it's hard to know what's right and wrong. And we talk to people all the time who were convinced about things, and I'm like, where did you hear that? That is total nonsense. They heard it online. I'm like, I'm not going to fight you over this. Do your thing. Whatever. I agree. you got to be able to swim. Yeah.
I think, Peter, if you'd seen that woman, that paddler, though, she was one of the best paddlers I've ever seen in my life. She was incredible, incredibly athletic, light, like paddler weight, unbelievable. You knew she was going to keep herself in the boat, and I think she would have stayed calm. And if she went in the water, she just wouldn't be able to self-rescue.
I mean, Aaron, you could provide the safety net with the right crew for her, right? So what if it was a 4-boat Cherry Creek trip? You were in boat 3 with her, and boat 2 was Adam Crom.
Man, I mean, we're
going to provide you the safety net. You could provide that safety net if you really want. You have to change. Everybody else has to sacrifice.
I mean, yeah, I think there's a couple problems with it. I think you could for one time down.
Yep.
But also I think it's a slippery slope, and you have to have, particularly running that river commercially, you need to have standards. And This is one of the things I really respect about Adam is Adam was adamant about his standards. And sometimes people get really upset and he'd be like, no, this is the standard. You have to meet the standard.
And once you start breaking the standard, it's a slippery slope. You're like, well, we did it once, let's do it again. And then you're like, well, what if there's only a 3-boat? We'll do it for a 3-boat trip. And you start getting lax. And next thing you know, there's no swim test.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and I mean, to this day, I feel bad for that woman. Like, yeah, she was incredible. And, yeah, and and I could have used her on my boat that day. She was supposed to be on my boat, and the rest of my paddlers were terrible compared to her. She was by far my best paddler. And so we're having this conversation, and I'm like, you're having the conversation, and I was like, oh God, I don't want to lose her. And but I was like, yeah, I just like we need to follow our standards, like for a lot of reasons. So, and that's what it came down to. And yeah, she deserved it. She deserved to be able to go with her commitment to rafting and all of those things. I'll say, and her knowledge. And I think she had a lot better understanding of what she'd run a lot of hard rivers, a lot of places. She had an understanding of the risk.
Yeah.
And it was just like, but yeah. Yeah.
That's when you're like, hey, go take a swimming class and come back.
Actually, yeah, I did. I invited her. I was coaching swimming in the Bay Area. I was like, come down, let's work on your swimming. And she came down and I helped her a little bit. I don't know how, I don't know if that helped, if she got, I'm like, you just got to work on this. So, yeah.
So Mason has a good question. What's the fitness benchmark?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say. I'm just going to say fitness is important. If I'm going to go run class 2 and people are out of shape, fine. If I'm going to run class 3, I feel like if I'm not at risk and they're just putting themselves at risk, fine. But as soon as my safety depends on others in like class 4 and 5, I personally expect a pretty high level of fitness for people who are going to save me. Because I know that if they can barely keep themselves going, they maybe can't rescue me. And so I can't give a benchmark. I'm just saying fitness is an important thing for boating.
But I think we can say, Zach, is there's like the ends where we know this group of people on this end is fit. We know this group of these people on this end are not fit.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the gray area in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And so be on this end where you know you're fit and it's not an issue. And what does that mean? You know, and like it means being able to pull yourself back in the boat when it's upside down and flipping it back over. It means being able to swim into an eddy. It means being able to do those things. It means that like you're not getting gas carrying boats down and moving gear around, you know, like it means you can probably run a mile. I mean, honestly, I think that's like, those are some, like in my mind, it's like you could run a mile without stopping and like run it. And like, no, you don't have to run like 5-minute mile or something crazy, but you run a mile in under 10 minutes. I think that's like, yeah, that's a level of fitness there. And like, not necessarily everyone has to be able to run, but like that level of fitness, like maybe you know, you've got the aerobic from swimming that you could do the comparable in the pool. So, I mean, does that seem reasonable?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say if you're not fit, you can't go boating, because I don't think that's right. What we're saying is if your goal is to train, physical fitness and swimming is a part of training. Right. And I think being not fit, there's a higher risk for a lot of reasons. Including when you fall out of a boat, that cold shock reaction. If you have a higher level of fitness, you're more able to deal with that cold shock reaction.
Sure.
It kills a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think if you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it helps to have that experience, and I like. If you can't figure out how to get a fair angle to swim to shore, you're probably shouldn't be driving the raft. And I think there's a difference between the person and like, I think what Mark talked about before there's a difference between being in charge of a raft and someone taking you on a raft. And I think when you're in charge of a raft, there's a higher level of expectations in terms of those first two things. Like you should be able to do more. So yeah, and a good swimmer, but I don't think it's that hard to learn to get perpendicular current and swim to shore. That's a good safety talk too. You can teach anyone that in 5 minutes how to swim to shore if you give a good safety talk. And I think that's another interesting aspect of this is that those people, yeah, I mean, we're kind of getting off onto a tangent, but yeah, you need to make sure people are properly prepared. So yeah.
Again, it's a scale with the level of difficulty of the rivers you're doing.
Yeah.
So, but it's an important thing to train. And like, I don't like lifting weights. It's not fun for me. I do it because I want to keep boating and I want to boat at a high level. Also it's good for my health, but like, I'm not dying to go lift weights tonight. I'm like, oh, I'd much rather watch Succession, which is an awesome show, by the way. I'm really into it right now. Right. But I'm like, no, I'm going to give up an episode of Succession to go, get ready to boat more.
Wait, don't the episodes come out on Sunday, Zach?
No, we're only in season 2.
Oh, yeah. Wow. You're rationing it. You're not just like busted through it.
We're watching an episode a night. So we're kind of going through it pretty fast. Okay. But if I lift tonight, maybe not get an episode in. I mean, EB, this is a total aside and good question. I don't think somebody can be a guide and support a family. It's not because of money. You're gone all the time. I guess doing day trips, you could do it. But if you expect as a guide to support a spouse and a couple kids, it's going to be tough. Partially because guiding seasonal, like how it's hard to make it year round.
I think there's a lot of fishing guides who do enough. There's a lot of fishing guides that do it. I think there are some rafting guides that do it. It's harder because you're gone, but like the fishing guides who do day trips, like out in Wyoming, for example, a lot of them have families and they do it daily. So there's ways to do it. And then you're doing something else during the winter for sure. But yeah. And then there's the question is like, you saying one person by themselves supporting the whole family? Probably not. Probably their spouse works too, So, and then I think
depends on their standard of living. Are you eating mayonnaise sandwiches or are you eating out every night?
Yeah. Now I'll say when I was working down in Chile, this was a while ago, the guys were making U.S. wages who were working with us who were Chilean, and they were like, yeah, we make what doctors make. So you bet they could have families. They made really good money for down there. And I think that's one of the differences for a lot of these international guides is the money they make even within their own country is really good because it's profitable. They can charge a premium for it, and they need good people because there's high expectations. So,
and over like a 4-month period of guiding, you can save a lot of money because you have no expenses. You're fed and you're housed, and all the money goes in the bank. The problem
I think that's Sorry, go ahead.
The problem is you can't also have a car payment and a mortgage. You kind of have to figure out like your expenses. Because again, you guide. I mean, a typical guide, I don't know. It depends on where they're working and everything. But like a 4-month season, you're going to put 10, 20 grand in the bank. Like I can't do that. I can't put 10 or 20 grand in the bank because I have payments. I have things that, I have to spend money on things. But over a year, you're going to spend that money. So what are you going to do the other 8 months, 7 months? That's the issue with guiding.
And I think making your season longer than 4 months. You can't do it guiding 4 months. You got to like stretch it out. You got to be the April through September.
Yeah. So our company, we've done that now. We have spring trips. So guides can work March through September. So they can work whatever that is, 6-7 months. And then they have to either find other work the other months or just live off that. How about, commercially, we take people up to, I don't know, 80 plus on these rivers.
Yep, Aaron. I did that. I took my grandmother down when she was in her early 80s. She really couldn't swim. Well, we made that decision.
The question is, are you asking about your granddad's fitness or your fitness? So if your granddad, if he's just gonna be a passenger, his fitness matters. But if you're not fit and you can't execute a rescue, I think that's the problem. And so most river guides are pretty fit so that they can handle rescuing somebody who can't rescue themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to say this is, and you can tell me I'm totally wrong on this. I feel a higher level of responsibility taking kids than taking my grandparents. And what I mean by that is like, I don't know, like I feel like you get to a certain stage of your life where you're like, hey, I'm going to take some risk. And I know this is a little bit risky for me, but I don't want to sit at home all the time.
Yeah.
Versus kids, it's like, well, just wait a year or two. You know what I mean? Like you're in different places. Like when I'm 80, yeah, I'm going to keep boating, even though it's probably not a good idea. Well, I'm going to keep doing it. But if I were, my kid's 8, I'll be like, let's wait a year or two, because then you can go do it and you have a lot of years to enjoy it. But when you're on the other end, I think that the risks and then as an adult, you're more able to make those decisions for yourself. Like as an adult, like as a grandparent, you talk to them about it and they can decide if they want to do it or not.
But some of the coolest trips I've been on, it's 3 generations.
Oh God, yeah.
When you have the grandparents and the grandkids and the parent, that's the coolest thing you can do. So that's a pretty special experience. Kids, I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do. It depends on you. Depends on your boats. Depends on the river level. Depends on them.
Depends on the kids. Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever taken those little surfer kids who grow up in the surf?
Yeah.
They're amazing. They are so comfortable. It's like you watch the adults, you're like, oh yeah, this kid, we're way better off with this 10-year-old kid than these adults. These adults are going to get themselves hurt. These kids just be fine. Like do a little swim train. The kid jumps in, swims around like, all right, cool. Yeah. This is a big deal.
There's a lot of factors here. We take kids as young as 7 and people as old as 80. I think. I don't really have an upper age limit all the time, but we have strong, fit, trained, professional guides who are doing it, who we know the river. Have you done the middle Maine? Right? Do you even know where you're going? Right. So, we know the rivers. We know what to get away with, and so. There's a lot of factors in whether or not you bring people.
And we know the people we're going with. Like we know the team. Yeah, we know the flows. We know the equipment. We know ourselves. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. But that's so great. Like if you're not going to high water, that's a perfect trip for kids like 4 years old. That's an amazing trip. Yeah.
So Aaron, I did this pretty quick. What do you think? In terms of like a training, like a path.
Well, I'm gonna say I don't think the kayak one is anywhere near what reality is. I think
I'm
most
gonna go back to a comment here. What do you mean it's not like reality? Most people take some sort of instruction.
for kayaking,
Yeah,
did you take some?
a little bit. I learned
Or
how to
would you?
roll in a class. I took a
Okay,
DCD class.
you took a rolling class. Okay, you took a rolling clinic.
Yeah, I mean,
How many of your friends did more than take a rolling clinic?
well, first of all, Aaron, this whole metric isn't what people
And how many of
are.
the people who guide for you who kayak even did that?
Aaron, let's go back. Let's give this context a little bit. This isn't necessarily what you should do, what everybody does. The topic is training. So if you want to train,
Okay.
what does that path look like?
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
saying
great.
have to take
Okay.
kayak instruction. I'm just saying if you want to train, step 1 would be a kayak instruction. Step 2 would be your first aid and CPR. And step 3 would be some sort of kayak rescue. There's not a whole lot more training for kayakers. You just go do and you learn on the job.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you.
And same thing with guiding. Like, people haven't been to professional guide school all the time, right? They just figured out they look like a guide, they show up and they get to work, right? So
Okay.
but if the training looks like a professional,
if you're wanting to take training,
the training path. The training path is like train under fitness, train under swimming ability, and then based on the path you want, take the guide school, the first aid, the rescue, and then I think at the end of that's IRF. Once you have all that stuff, the IRF is like a way to prove your competence. And there's guide and trip leader training. I think what you wanted to talk about in this topic was if you're a private boater, a rafter, what does that training look like if you want to train?
Well, I think it seems like a large, like the commercial one is like, you're going to go work for a company and then they're going to lay out to you like, hey, this is how we like our guides to improve. And so I feel like there it's just like, this is like, they each have their thing, the way they like to do it, what they like to do. And honestly, I think a lot of commercial companies don't put enough emphasis on continued training with their guides. I think it's extremely varied. And I think there's some that do a great job with it, but I think there's a lot that do a terrible job with it. And I think they just like, oh, they'll just learn by going out there. And it's just messy. So yeah, I like what you're saying there. Looking at when now that I understand what you're saying about it, I think that's good. I think the private rafting rowing class, I'm assuming the same as like a paddle rafting class, like the people who are like.
But there's no such thing as a private paddle rafting class.
That's true. But I think for private rafters, what's a great option is to take a pro rafting guide school and then continue on the private.
Really though? I mean, do you really want the average private boater to sit through some bunch of guides pontificate and have a little mini boot camp?
No, I'm going to say this. I've had a lot of private boaters.
They do, but the average person, I mean, Aaron, how many private boaters in the entire world do you think have taken a professional guide school?
Not enough.
Maybe like
not enough.
200.
Not enough. Way more than 200.
Not enough. I mean, I personally don't think a professional guide school is appropriate for private.
I've seen this, Zach. I've taught so many of them, and I'll say is like I've had a lot of people who like I had a couple that came a few years ago on one they owned their own raft. They'd been guiding for a while, and they said, you know what? They got married, and for their honeymoon, they came on a guide school. We wanted to make sure we were doing things right. And they were good. They were good at they were good at driving boats, but I think they came away. They're like, wow, we know so much more. We were just learning from our friends.
I'm sure they learned things.
There was a lot of gaps. I think there was a lot of gaps that got filled for them, and it gave them a much broader.
How to do dishes and cook up the propane?
No, I think most of it was. Well, I think there was that aspect too for multi-day trips to seeing how the commercial kitchen and seeing
how to give a safety talk, how to get along with other guys.
I think how to team boat, how to set safety, how to do those things. I think a lot of that stuff, and like how to rig your boat. But
all of that stuff is
safely.
rowing class.
Not for paddle guides.
Oh yeah. But who paddle guides in it? Who private paddle guides anymore?
Go to the South Fork of the American. Go to the South Fork of the American. There's so many people paddle guiding there.
Oh really?
There's a ton of
but
private
they're all like
there.
guides probably. It's probably like a guide up for a season.
No.
Take my friends down.
Oh, one of my buddies, actually, one of my high school friends, he I don't know if he owns a raft now, but
How did
goes
he
up there
learn?
every year
Aaron, how did he learn?
from another friend.
That's how. So you're saying he should have learned how to paddle guide from a professional guide school?
I think he's fine with what he did, but I think it would help.
That's my point. He didn't need the guide school.
Yeah, no, but I think he's content just to go run some South Fork trips. He doesn't want to do anything else with it. But if he was wanting to go run harder rivers, I think it would have helped him immensely.
And my point is, private boaters, it's a best use of their time to go to private boater training. I throw them in with a bunch of wannabe 18-year-old river guides.
I think actually I disagree. I've seen so many people get such a good experience about it. I've seen them enjoy it immensely. And most of them that are on it, they love watching it too, because they're just there to learn, and they're seeing all these kids.
Aaron,
it's like no, it's not at all. You know what it is? It's like it's like those reality shows. Like, what's the one that Donald Trump was on with You're Fired? What was that one? Like, it's like The Apprentice or something like that, right? Because they're like sitting back watching The Apprentice, because all these kids are trying to like get jobs, and they're all there, man, I'm just learning to raft. I'm having a good time, and the kids are all stressed out.
I've taught a couple of these guide schools before too. Not as many as you have. I've taught a couple of them where there's some people who are private boaters and some people are commercial guides, and they're there for different reasons. It's like oil and water a little bit. Like you're saying, like, oh, they love to. It's like they're an apprentice, and I'm saying, like, no, it's more like Survivor.
It might be like what? Well, I would say, like but I think, when was the last time you taught one of these? How old were you?
15 years ago.
I think one of the things, being older now, you relate more to those people who are older, and it's interesting because they come talk to me, and I have a different experience with them now than I did when I was in my 20s teaching those courses.
But there aren't that many people teaching professional guide courses. They're not in their 20s. Like, most of them are like 28-year-old guides who have never owned a house. Like,
I don't think that's actually true, Zach. I
Aaron,
think most of them
100% true.
No way.
Who's teaching the art? Think about who's teaching art guide schools right now.
Katie Parker, she's in her 30s.
Barely.
Courtney Hazlitt in her 30s. Xander in his 30s. Noah's in her 30s.
Hey, there's okay. Hold
John,
on. Okay.
John
I'm wrong. The spreadsheet can be. I'm going to give up a spreadsheet point to you. We have some good comments, and Sean and Peter made some really cool comments. But I want to get to this one. Every category needs Swiftwater training. Do you want to rant on this, or should I go ahead and rant?
You go first.
I don't know what Swiftwater training is. I know what Swiftwater rescue training is. And I think that's what he's talking about. Yep. So in here, you'll see kayak rescue, you'll see rescue, and you'll see raft rescue. So each category does have rescue training. I think a general problem I see is that people learn this stuff too early in their boating career and don't have enough context to make their learning worthwhile. They're like, oh, I learned how to tie this knot 5 years ago. You almost have to see some problems and be on our team before you're like, oh man, I saw this happen. I'm glad I'm learning this to make it valuable. That's my opinion. So I put rescue pretty low down because it's like, there's other stuff you can learn first. And in the private rafting world, I put river safety because I feel like we should be focusing on prevention instead of cure. And I think what you're saying is like, everybody needs to learn the cure. It's sort of like how we deal with healthcare in this country by giving people drugs. No. Let's teach people to do yoga and go walk 5 miles a day. And so I'm a fan of like, let's teach the prevention, because I see way too many people doing things that are not safe on the river that they just were never taught correctly. That's my rant. You want anything to that, Aaron?
Well, that's why what your river safety course is in the private boating,
which doesn't exist.
Yeah.
There's no such.
Yeah.
Here's just the same course. Yeah. It's not always. I've seen a lot of rescue classes where they don't talk about prevention. It's all about.
I think he's saying green with you with the other comments, Zach.
Okay, cool.
That you're saying Swiftwater training, same course or rescue. And I think, Steve, one of the things that I think Zach would say here is, first of all three groups do not need the same training. They should have different training.
Yep.
And I will say, it's like, and you don't want to be in training with firefighters. I think when you say Swiftwater training, and I think in our minds, We think of this huge training that is going to make Rescue 3 a ton of money, an ACA, because they're going to have all these people, firefighters, rafters, kayakers, commercial guides, all rammed into together learning Swiftwater together, which is like, it's better than nothing for sure. But
Can I say something offensive, Aaron? I'm on a rant. I'm in a mood today. The ACA and Rescue 3 are like borderline. What's that thing that Bernie Madoff did?
Oh yeah,
Ponzi schemes. They're borderline Ponzi schemes.
No. It's like, it's more like Avon, where you get people to sell for you. Maybe those,
or like triangle pyramids.
Yeah, pyramid schemes. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I agree with what you're saying.
I'm sure I offended a few people there. The ACA, that's a good point. The ACA doesn't do firefighters.
Great, that's good. Okay.
Yep. But I think sometimes they're so busy filling their courses so they can make them profitable, and then they have to train more people. Then there's more courses, that they're more worried about getting numbers in their classes, and they're saying, take Swiftwater, it makes you safer. Not necessarily. There should be a safety class. I have no idea what BCU is. Actually, I don't even know what a Ponzi scheme is. I mean, I kind of know. But anyway, let's go back. There's some great comments. Heidi, do you mean rowing class or guide school? Because look what she says. If guide schools existed strictly for older crowd, for folks who don't have to worry about working for tips. I think that's the point. Heidi, we did a course together. Do you mean a course like the rowing school?
I think she's saying, I think this is great. She's saying a couple of things. Heidi, it's a little, I'm not exactly sure, but I think she's saying, hey, yes, please, more private boaters go to guide schools. She's saying she thought it was helpful.
So when she says if only guide schools exist strictly for, that's exactly what our rowing schools are. We design just we taught guide school. This happened. Let me tell my story. We taught guide schools, and over time it was 50% 18-year-old people begging for a job, and 50% people wanting to be better private boaters. And like I said, it was oil and water. It was like Survivor. It wasn't a good mix. And so our rowing school started by us saying, let's just focus on the older people. We like that. It's more fun for us. And let's give up and we didn't need to hire guides back then. So we hired like one guide a year. We don't even need to train guides. So we removed all the guide stuff out. And the rowing schools were like, hey, here's what people who are private boaters want to learn. Okay. Now go ahead and talk, Aaron.
Okay. I'm gonna say this, Zach. I think that's one of the problems with your course. Your course is designed about what people want to learn. And I think the professional guide school is more about what people need to learn.
Nope. You're 100%
yes.
wrong. We have a curriculum that people hate sometimes. Some people, I make them do things they don't want to do. The course they did with Heidi, the class 4 school, people are always like, they want to learn how to row and get better at rowing. I'm like, I'm not going to work on your individual rowing at all. I'm going to force you to run boat order, boat safety. I'm going to force you to scout things. I'm going to force you to do all these things. I know you're here to be a better individual rower, but guess what? You're not going to get that. You're going to get team boating.
But Zach, okay, let's back up. I think your class 4 school is a unique example. When I'm just talking in general, if you talk about a rowing class versus a pro guide school, the expectations in the pro guide school is like, hey, everyone's going to participate in all these activities. Everyone's going to swim underneath the raft. Everyone's going to practice swim rapids. Everyone's going to practice the throwbacks. Everyone's going to flip their boats. And that's why I like the pro guide school, is because of those expectations. And those people who are on those courses, they know when they sign up for them, they have to do it. And I've had them. They sit there next to me like, I'm really scared to do this, Aaron, but I guess I got to try. I'm like, yep. That
is a difference, because most people we teach in our class 3 schools don't want to swim rapids, don't want to swim under a boat, don't want to flip their boat, don't want to go in the river to catch a throw bag. And we don't force them to. We're like, hey, you should do this. And like, no, everybody says, no, I'll do it later. I'll do it at home. And they don't. Yeah. But in a guide school, to participate, you kind of have to. But if somebody says, I am not going to flip my boat, you're not going to make him in a professional guide school.
Well, but I'm just going to say it's kind of like with a kid. It's the way you set expectations. And I don't care if you like the guide school or not. This is a professional guide school to develop professional guides. And this is what you're here. You're here to learn what professional guides and go through these activities. And actually, Zach, I think that people, a lot of times they want to be pushed. They want to be pushed. They want that. They want it, but they don't. It's like jumping in that freezing cold water. Like, I don't really want to do it, but I'm really happy that I did it. And so I think it's one of those things that they get.
They're happy they did it, but getting them to do it is really hard.
So. I never force anyone. I just set an expectation. Hey, this is what we're doing.
We do too. In our class 4 schools. Here's Todd, who was in a class with last year. Thanks, Todd. It was all about boat safety and awareness, and we did make them swim across the river. And we didn't make them, but it was like, you need to do this. So we added.
But I don't think you need to. It's like, hey, this is part of the course. This is what we're doing next.
That's what we did. And so some people will just not do it. And I don't, in our rowing class, at least, I'm not going to shame people.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you going to start shaming? You need to start shaming them. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's always positive shaming.
Let's go back. There's so many questions here.
Yeah, we got to go way back. We got to go back.
Chart is guide school or rowing school more applicable for private boaters who paddle and row? Rowing school, in my opinion, rowing school. I think that if you're a private boater, I personally, and Aaron, you and I can disagree. If you're a private boater, I would not encourage a guide school because there's just way too much stuff in there that you don't want to learn. We've already had this talk. It's just all the stuff. Like
what stuff? Okay, well here, like if you're taking like a South Fork American guide school to learn to guide on the South Fork, like the UC Davis one you and I.
I mean, there's a comment like that down here. Depends on the guide school. How to run the South Fork every time isn't for privates. A holistic school that teaches reading, safety, conservation. Yeah.
And I agree with Sean there. And I think that is the problem with certain South Fork guide schools. I think it depends on who's teaching it, what they're teaching. Chart is guide school.
But and let me go back a second. Let's end this conversation because I think people know that we disagree on this. But when I think about an ARDA guide school that you're suggesting people take, basically, or like Lake Tahoe, your Lake Tahoe school.
The Lake Tahoe school is like it's a great example. Like we do like 8 days, and most of them are on the South Fork now. Like we do mostly paddle, and we do some introduction rowing, and then we go over to the North Fork a little bit just so they see something different. But it's designed for kids who want to become professional guides, and we get a lot of people from the community that take it as well. A lot of people go on to be private boaters and never work commercial trips.
Yeah, I think what I know about that Lake Tahoe class is it's really good. Like it's more in line with how it should be done correctly. When I hear from people who've taken professional guide schools, they end up taking turns rowing a 16-foot heavily loaded boat with wood oars. So like,
yeah,
I think
that's
like, so I think in our rowing school, everybody has their own boat. We have lighter boats. They're empty. You get like good oars versus like sharing a commercial setup, which isn't always the right thing. So I think, go ahead.
I'm agree with you. I think if you're wanting to learn to row, take a rowing school. But if you want to learn to paddle captain.
Nobody wants to learn to paddle captain.
Zach does.
Does he really?
I'm talking to Zach here. Zach, not you, Zach, the other Zach. But that's my point is if you're wanting to learn to paddle captain, I think there's a lot of things that most professional guides know that can keep you and your friends a lot safer on the river.
For sure. 100%. If you're one of the 3 people in the world that want to learn how to paddle captain and not be a guide, you're not, that's why it's called a rowing school. We don't even touch paddle captaining. Like I don't even want, it's not even a topic. So if you want to paddle captain, a rowing class is not the place to go, but nobody wants to learn to paddle captain. Nobody has 5 friends. They're like, hey, let's go paddle rafting. And you can't.
Zach, a lot of us have 5 friends, actually. Just maybe you don't.
No, paddle captaining is so hard as a private boater. You have to have life jackets for everybody, wetsuits for everybody. You have to have another boat for safety, maybe 2 boats.
Zach, I've gone on these trips with private boaters. I've seen it. I've gone down to the Kings with people. I've gone to South Fork. Yeah, it's California. Yeah. This because California doesn't have the good longer trips.
Would you throw a life? Okay, move on. Let's move on. Would you throw a lifeguard? You would.
It's interesting. I think the lifeguard classes have changed a lot since I took one.
It's not going to hurt.
I think it's kind of a cool. I'm going to say this. I would say this. If you are going to I think I'd want every kid to take a lifeguarding class. Like I would want my kids to take a lifeguarding class. And my parents, I remember they said, I want you to take a lifeguarding class because if you have to help someone else, I want you to be able to do it without putting yourself in a situation where you're going to get yourself drowned. And I think that, in my mind, is a lifeguard class, I think is a great thing to know. And there's a lot of good skills to come out of it. So if you're around water a lot, I think it makes sense because then you learn like the standards and like how to prevent yourself from getting in a position that, people drown other people. That happens. So
wasn't that called lifeguard BSA? Did you ever do that?
Yeah, I think so. I did that.
I did all this in the Boy Scouts. Yeah, it's called BSA lifeguard. So I think I did so much of that as a kid being the Boy Scouts and like swimming merit badge. I assume everybody just has those skills. And I forget that not everybody is a Boy Scout.
No, it's kind of funny. Is there's certain things like I'm trying to get Lindsay to tie a bowline and she doesn't know how to tie a bowline.
No,
Like, you know,
I have guides that work for me that can't tie a bowline.
yeah, we all learned that. We learned that in Boy Scouts. It's like,
You don't
yeah,
need to tie a bowline anymore with cam straps. People can just never learn how, or they tie other silly knots. It's nonsense.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could pick up rowing pretty quick. I mean, when you're a private boater, kayaker, and you learn some safety stuff, if you learn to kayak, you've seen carnage. Like anybody who's learned to kayak has been part of disasters. So
you
you've
probably
dealt
swam
with,
a lot yourself. Yeah.
you've dealt with swimmers, you've seen throw bags, you've seen disasters happen. So you have the safety stuff kind of learned. And learning to row is a lot easier. Did that one.
We'll go back to that for a second, though. I think that can we go back and hit on that one and then we'll go back
This
to
one?
Yeah, that one for a second. I think Sean, you make a really good point there too, and like just I think we need to reiterate that. Like that, Zach, that article I write about. I wrote an article about selecting guide schools a while back, and one of the big things I talked about in it was the difference between judgment-based companies and policy-based companies when you're looking for a guide school. And I'm a big fan of looking for, if you want to take a guide school and you really want to learn to be a good guide, commercial, private, whatever, you want to take a judgment-based school. Because policy-based, it's rules for here, like we run this rapid like this, we do this like this, we do like this, which is cool and all, but judgment-based, I think makes a lot more sense. If you're wanting to go run different rivers with different people, you want to understand the whys. Yeah. Policy-based, ask me how, not why.
Policy-based is sort of like you always have an external knife. Or you always have an internal knife. Judgment-based is like, here's the pros and cons.
Yep.
Understanding the pros and cons, make up your own decision.
Yeah. A huge fan. And I think this is a really important one. And the thing is, you could take, like on the South Fork American, like depending on the company you go with and how they roll, they're going to be way different style of guide school in terms of this. You know what I mean? Like how much of it's just like really structured. And I find in general, I'll say, the larger companies are more structured because they need to be, and the smaller ones are more judgment based, but not always.
Let's move on. But the best guides, yeah. I mean, Peter, the things I look for are, I call it intention and empathy, like being there for the right reasons and being able to put yourself in other people's shoes. So I'm looking for people with intention and empathy. But in terms of training, you gotta have training too.
Well, intention and empathy are great, but you gotta be willing to put in the time, and you gotta be a worker bee.
Yep.
I mean,
like work ethic.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure there's all kinds of things.
I mean, a lot of them, Barrett, there's a few things that happen. Like some of them do like the internship type of stuff, but most of them start off with a lot of them start off with a guide school. And then you take their guide school, and then if they like you, then they get you to do more training later on. And if they don't like you, say, "Oh, go find a job someplace else." But a lot of the companies also hire people from other guide schools as well. A lot of the outfitters, they just need so many guides. So,
this is a good question, Aaron.
How much do you think a private boater might learn by going to a good? Well, Zach, this is a great thing. I would say it depends on the trip, and I would say like
he said, good commercial trip. So When
I would say like, I think going and paddling on Cherry Creek, you'll learn a ton. And if you're into paddle boating, like if you're into paddle boating and want to learn about paddle boating or paddle combos in this case, you would learn a ton about training crews, how to get people to sit properly, how to keep people on the boat, running rapids. You'd see things, you'd be like, whoa, you can do all this stuff. And so I think, yes, I think that's it's particularly a day trip like that. The multi-day scene, I don't think it's as helpful because you just don't get to see as much of it. Like you're kind of removed.
It would be camp stuff. You'd be like, oh, that's an interesting way to set up the stove.
Yeah.
Why do you I should have 4 dishwaters. Why are those hot? Why are those cold? Oh, that's how you do Dutch oven brownies. Oh, that's an interesting way to put your coals. Like you'd learn a lot of camp tips and tricks, but on river it wouldn't be as much.
Yeah. And I mean, I think at put-ins you can go like for the multi-do, I would just go over and look at how they're rigging the boats, what they've got where. I think that's a good thing to do with the commercial boaters. If you're at a put-in with them, you can see a lot there, and then you can actually watch them too, like how are they training up their crews. I think that's a really good thing to do. You can learn a lot at put-in and takeout, watching the safety talks, just overhearing safety talks, overhearing them training their crews, see what they do before they get to going downstream. But do we ever feel what BCU is?
No. It sounds like she liked the art of school more than mine.
Yeah, Heidi. Thank you, Heidi.
Were you there, Aaron, for that one?
No, I did not teach hers.
Oh,
I did
okay.
not teach Heidi's, but I met Heidi. I was helping out with you. I met you. Well, she was on the higher course, and I helped out a little bit. I just kind of hopped on at the end of one of your class 4 schools one year. Yeah. Well, and to be fair, Heidi, I think you took that first, and I think the first thing you take is where you just like you're definitely drinking from the fire hose and learning a lot. So, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So wait, I'll need to have why? Yeah, reading river. I mean, teaching reading the river is really hard. It's really hard because it's not. You can teach some concepts in a course, like you can teach like a class, there's a good like half an hour, 40-minute class you can teach about river hydrology or whatever we call it now, hydraulics. You can teach some basics of what to look for, but I mean, honestly, the most people learn reading river just practice.
Well, Steve,
hours in the river.
Steve, what's interesting is like you and Zach may be more aligned than you realize. I'm not sure what we're saying this company. It's like I think that's Zach's point is Swiftwater rescue should be safety training. When he's talking about even Zach, Steve is backing up a step and being like, how do I keep people in the raft? Like how am I, dressed properly if I do swim? How all those really basic things. Like if you can keep everyone in the raft,
should I even be out there that day? Like
should I be out there that day? What should I be wearing? Yeah. Who I should be going with? All of those basic things are.
What's proper boat spacing look like?
Yeah.
How do I set safety at the bottom of a rapid? Go after the person in the raft before. Like a lot of Swiftwater rescue, they're so focused on throwing throw bags. People decide to throw bags, and they should just use the raft to go get the person.
Well, yeah, and I think we've all been there. Particularly, I know early in my career, I remember the first couple of times people fell out of the boat. I was trying to rescue them with my boat. It was terrible.
It takes practice. The timing is the timing of rescuing people in a boat is really hard. It can't be taught in a classroom. It has to be practice. So, like, I think there's a lot of safety training that can happen. Rescue gets so focused. I mean, there's some things at rescue that, like, what's that thing when you guys all stand in a line in the water and wade out together? Called again? Everybody's like making it like a
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Really, are we really doing that?
I actually like that one. I know it's been
done once in a while, but have you ever actually used that in a rescue, Aaron?
Zach, I like that one because it's simple. There's no gear involved. It's just a lot of little people, and it's one you're going to remember. So I like that a lot more than learning a Tyrolean traverse or whatever cool rope. This cool rope system you do, blah blah blah, and then your friend over here does this, and then you do this, and then you spin around. It's just like I'm not going to remember that unless I train and practice it all the time. And so, I think Steve, and I don't know where you are on this part. I think what Zach's talking about is a lot of that rope work in like in my mind, the classic firefighter rope work stuff where everything is land based. One of the first things to do, let's get a line across the river downstream in case someone swims down. On a commercial trip, rafting, you never just like, oh, let's put a line across the river. Whoa, no. And that's like one of their, they used to be one of their go-tos.
I really like the concept of attention diagonal. I think it's really interesting to me as a way to save people. I just have never been in a situation that warrants it.
Well, I'm not talking about the tension diagonal even, Zach, which is a whole different ballgame. I'm just talking about they like to throw a line across the river so they can catch people if they're swimming down.
They do?
Have you ever seen that? Yeah, I at least on one of them.
I mean, there's so much difference between
wanting to do that, and I was like, oh, whoa.
I just feel like there's a lot of stuff in Swiftwater classes, and taking one is not a bad thing. But what my hang up is people say, how do I become safer? And the answer is take a Swiftwater rescue class. Doesn't make a Swiftwater rescue class is about the cure, not the prevention. There's a lot of stuff in safety that doesn't get covered in Swiftwater rescue. And he's saying it should be covered, but it's not.
Yeah. Zach, can you still hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I'm coming to get this book.
No. So what I would say is it's like learning evasive maneuvering for driving when you haven't learned the basic skills of like the 2-second following and all the others,
Don't
like
drink and drive.
don't drink and drive, wear your seatbelt. It's like, great, let's teach them basic driving. Yeah, you learn the basic driving. Cool. You learn when your car skids out how to handle it. But that is such a small fraction of the issues and concerns.
I mean, I think here's let me go on a separate tangent. I really value people's time. Like, people have a limited amount of time for training, right? And so I want to make sure that it's effectively used. So yeah, go to a professional guide school. It's not going to hurt, but I don't think it's the most effective use of people's time in terms of getting better as a boater, personally. Same thing with Swiftwater Rescue. If you want to be safer, a 3-day rescue class is not it makes you safer, but it's not the most effective use of your time. There is what I would call a river safety class. It doesn't exist. So sorry. There should be a preventative safety class that people can take that comes before rescue. It doesn't exist. I think it should. So it's a more effective use of people's time.
So what's the best option right now, though, Zach?
I mean, I'm biased. Our class 4 rowing school is basically that class. But I'm not selling it because our trip's already sold out for next year. So it's not like I can offer it to anybody, but like, it's intended to be that class. We could call it river safety, but instead we call it the class 4 rowing school. But this whole other aside, hold on, let me go to this. This is my favorite book about this right now. It's Whitewater Safety and Rescue. And so if you read,
book is that?
This is the Franco Ferraro book. It's sitting on my table right now next to me. The other one I have over here. Hold on. This book is awesome too. The Knowles Rescue Guide. It's a great book about rescue. There's a lot of safety stuff in there too, but this is a lot about rescue, which is really good. But I love this book because it's 2/3 safety, 1/3 rescue. And so I wish people would read this book, honestly. Like, there's a lot to learn in this book, and it covers, and it's kind of based on kayaking. So if you're a rafter, it's like a little contrived at times, but I love its focus on safety and prevention. And at the end, there's some rescue. And so I think that's what I see. And when people take rescue classes, they come back with all these cute tools, and I go on the river with them, and they're like, dude, seriously? Like, you can't even wait for me at the bottom of a rapid, right? Or you threw a throwback from a raft, like, when you could have just gone and get them. Like, yeah, I'm not going to go. We can go on and on about this. Let's move on. The majority of ACA swimming, was that sweet? I took an ACA course like 25 years ago. That's my only experience with it. That's great to hear. I mean, we're sold out. I mean, we have, yeah, I don't need more people in our classes. But learning a paddle guide's fun. I just don't think people do it. But Mark, there's a difference between paddle guiding and R2ing as well, right? Somebody could offer an R2 school and probably do really well with it. I probably offended a lot of people today. I think I've been really opinionated. Paddling, I don't know. There's a lot of interesting comments. We're way behind. We said a lot of dumb things.
No. Yeah, see?
Sure. I paddle captain over here too. Mark, is it paddle guiding though, or is it R2ing?
No, he's talking paddle guiding. It's just like, I don't think he is.
I don't think he is. I think he's talking about R2ing, which is a different skill than paddle guiding. It's similar, but it's different. Yeah. South Fork of Tennessee. I'm just blowing through comments. There's a lot. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I think this goes back to me saying, like, when people are learning in like a professional school, they learn on a loaded down gearboat. It's hard to learn on a loaded down gearboat, but having some weight really helps. It's like an intermediate step. Like, once you learn how to row and you can like ferry and catch eddies and do all the stuff, then throw some weight in it. And instead of talking about speed, you can start thinking about momentum, which changes the game quite a bit. That's a good point. Yeah, that's true. It's true. Depends how much weight you put in your boat. But again, it's really hard to learn this stuff in a loaded down boat.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting point, Michael. But yeah, I actually, that's funny you say that because I feel like so many times somehow I end up behind a private boater and I'm being dumb because I'm the lead boat in my trip and I'm kind of floating towards them at the top rapid. I'm like, oh, they're going in, it'll be fine. And I forget how light their boats are and they're just rowing upstream through the entire rapid. And I'm like trying to slow down and not run into them because they're just pulling upstream because their boats are so light.
I mean,
so
a private multi-day boat is lighter than almost always than a commercial multi-day boat.
Oh, totally. Way lighter.
So
yeah, way lighter. Yeah.
I mean, it depends. It's a generalization. I'm making too many generalizations today, but like it helps to, once you figure things out, like I think you have to learn on a light boat. It's how you understand crossing eddies. It's how you learn how to it's really hard to learn with weight in your boat. And then once you learn the basics, you felt the concepts, then you can start throwing some weight in and get better.
Well, you know my feeling about it, Zach. I think people bring way too much stuff on their trips. Bring less stuff.
Both of us are Eagle Scouts.
On my honor.
Yep.
Yeah, you bet. Nerds, yeah.
I wouldn't say that. Do most commercial trips set up camps in advance?
Oh, I think
we don't. I mean, we do sometimes, but it's pretty rare. But even if it's set up in advance, you'll walk around camp and you'll be like, "Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting." And so, like, even if it's you don't help set it up, to see how commercial companies do things. This is just my experience. When we have people row along our trips, they're always like, "Oh man, that's a good trick. I'm gonna write that down." Or they ask a bunch of questions. "Oh, I didn't know you guys did it this way, and it's really cool to see you guys did it this way." So even if it's set up, they learn things.
Yeah, I would say it depends on the river. Like on the Middle Fork and the Rogue, that's more common. On other rivers, it's way less common. They don't go out in front. Like the Grand Canyon, they're not allowed to.
On the Rogue, I'd say half the companies doing the Rogue, half do and half don't.
Yeah.
Mark Hunt's Grand Canyon video is really good. I haven't watched the whole thing, but the parts I watched I really liked. But it's a little bit skewed towards big volume rivers. Like it's good. If you want to run steep and technical, you might. There's some. It's not the best for that.
It's great. It's great for running those types of rivers. Yeah, it's great for high volume. Yeah. My God, at school in the 80s.
First day. Yeah, I mean, you're not. It's time. Like all of these things are time.
Sean, I think that's one of the I try to. It's about reps. I mean, we still talk about, was it the 1,000-hour rule or whatever? It's about spending time out there doing it for sure. And and that's one of my problems with some Swiftwater courses, is they spend a lot of time talking to you about stuff and not enough time doing. Hey, by the way, here, Zach, I have the ACA Swiftwater Rescue curriculum up here. If you want me, I can share it. We can look at it.
Before we do, I just want to point out, that's why I added experience practice to this. Like I did this whole thing and thought, man, these have to go hand in hand with experience. You can't just take all these classes and then do it forever. You got to do them while you're getting better, and you're not going to get better without experience and practice. You're just not. So, yeah. All right, Aaron.
Let's keep going. We're still we got so many questions. We'll wait on.
No, we're almost done. Okay, wait, hold on. Be involved in self-rescue.
Totally.
People will just pop out. Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Take Heidi. That's what this whole show is about. I'm gonna tell you my opinion right now.
You're gonna read it off of this chart that you have up here in front of us.
Start with fitness and swimming ability, which I know you have. Then take a rowing class. You can take a professional guys school if you want. I'm gonna say a rowing class is better. Then river safety, which doesn't exist, but essentially is our class for school. So you've done that. And then first aid and CPR, and then some sort of raft rescue class. And I mean, there could be more training out there. There could be more classes. They just don't exist. And so what it takes, but I think the key here is that experience and practice, like interspersing this stuff with safety experience and practice. So like if you got into it and you took all these classes at once and then you went out and practiced, you'd have to retake some of them because they wouldn't really, you wouldn't have retained the information correctly. But like Heidi, I mean, honestly, the answer to the question, I think the answer you're really looking for is you need to just go boating. I mean, just go do it. Like, I don't think there's that many more classes you need. Just go boating. What do you think, Aaron?
I'm going to say I think Heidi has done the right things.
Yeah,
I think Heidi is a model of like.
Yeah, I agree.
Heidi, you took a guide school, like you took that art guide school, which great. You got a good foundation there, and then hopefully you went out and started doing some boating on your own. I know you got a cat, and then you decided to take some classes from Zach, and then you're trying to do more training, which is good. But I think at the end of the day, Zach's right. Like at a certain point, like going back and doing some training helps, but I think also in between is just getting out and boating a lot and trying to find good people to boat with, which can be challenging, but people you respect and you get to watch them and watch the way they run the river and just kind of, and I think just paying attention when you're out on the water and you're following people down, seeing how they attack rapids, trying to figure out what they're doing. I mean, I think it's fun just to, like, if you live in the right spot and there's a busy section of river, just to go watch everyone run the big rapid, just sit down there and hang out and watch how people approach it and see what happens too. I mean,
and not pushing it too early, too hard, too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like I know Heidi wants to go run the Illinois and like, okay, well, I know that's a goal of hers. So training isn't going to get you there. Reps are going to get you there. So it's like cycling. You just got to keep cycling to get better and better and better, right? The more you bicycle, the better you get. Like there's only so much training you can have in bicycling. The hard part is it depends where you live. Like where I live, I can go boating class 3. I boat class 3 like 2 or 3 times a week. I just keep the reps coming. And I'm always practicing, learning things, getting better. If you don't live somewhere where it's easy to boat in your backyard, it's much harder to get those reps. But that's like being able to get reps within your ability level. And then when you go do like a class 3 river that it's really easy, then start taking more difficult lines, catch really hard eddies, like start playing your way down, do some things that are like challenge yourself on the class 3 and then step up, master that run, and then catch all the eddies, do everything, and then step up. Like don't progress too fast. That's a long rant.
Yeah, Zach, I also think one of the things that we don't have on here, but I think kayaking and inflatable kayaking are really helpful in terms of developing skills. Being in a smaller boat and going and playing around, and not even a hard river, just fun little rivers. And like you can catch a lot of eddies, you can try to surf little waves in them. If you're in inflatable kayak, you flip over, no problem. You flip it back over, climb back in. So you get used to being in the water. I mean, I know when I was learning to kayak, I definitely swam way more kayaking than I did rafting. Like, like you said, like, I think there's a lot of, like running your boat and getting comfortable with the boat you run, definitely. But then also going in different boats and paddling for different people. People like Mark who are running paddle boats says, go run it, go paddle boating with some friends and hop in a boat with them.
Stand-up paddleboarding.
Stand-up paddleboating. All right. What's the British Canoe Union?
It's according to somebody, it's a Ponzi scheme. It's on.
Okay.
I apologize to everybody we're offending today. When I say we're offending, I'm offending. Mark Rivers guiding with a bunch of friends. Cool.
Yep.
Hey, Mark, I think we're going to win tomorrow, by the way. FYI. Michael's in charge of the plans. Paddle guiding. What? Everybody are twos. I live in a different world. Nobody paddle guides out here.
Yeah, Zach, because you just hang out with all the cool people.
No, it's just like
you basically hang out. You hang out with the telemarkers of rafting.
What are you talking about?
R2ing.
I don't hang out with R2ers. It's just like it's so hard to get that many people together. The thing about R2ing that's awesome for boaters is that the two of you are both engaged and part of the team. The last thing I want to do is sit in somebody else's paddle boat and have them tell me how to paddle. I'd rather just like watch football, honestly, than sit in somebody else's paddle boat and be like forward paddle, back paddle, right turn. So like if you have non-boating friends, they're fine being yelled at all day. right? And then you can paddle guide them all the way down. But you're not going to find 5 boaters like, let's all go paddle guiding, and you guide us down. That just isn't like, it's not. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I live in a different.
I think, Zach, you have a good point about the R2, and it's easier to just define one person and go. Having said that, I think like we did this when we were newer. We paddled for people who were way more experienced than us, and it was a good way to learn more about guiding a raft.
We did it a lot. We did this a lot.
We paddled a lot for people.
It's how we got to go run really hard rivers and meet some really cool people.
Yeah.
I just don't think like this is. I just don't see people paddle guiding anymore on the rivers I'm on. Maybe I'm out of touch with reality. There you go. Mark. I didn't know you paddle guided. I should know that, but I didn't know that you were into this.
I think paddle guiding is one of the most fun things you can do on the river. It's so fun.
I 100% agree. I maybe put stand-up paddleboarding like a tiny bit above it, but to like get it, Aaron. I don't want to get.
Wait, you like to break your knees? I mean, what's
it's just really like it's really fun, and I haven't done it much lately, but it's really fun. Anyway, like to bring a group of people together and prep them, and then to explain like use a team to get down rapids in really intricate places. It's just, I agree, it's really fun. It's just so much work gathering the people together, and somebody has to get a latte on, somebody forgot their helmet, and I'm over it. We just bring a lot of stuff. I don't know. I'm sure you do too. We just generally bring a lot of stuff.
Here's the deal. Here's why they're heavier. Because like Barrett on a private trip in general, like, oh, Zach and I are going on a private trip, and you too. The 3 of us are going on a private trip. We're all going to bring our own rafts, right? And then maybe we'll each bring a person in it. Well, if we're on a commercial trip, there'll be 20 people on a tutor trip, and Zach and I will have all the gear in our 2 boats, and you'll be in a paddle boat with 6 people, and someone else will be in a paddle boat with 6 people. And so just like, commercial trips, they're trying to minimize the number of guides they need so they can make as much money as they can. And private boating, everyone wants to row. So you just, the guide to the raft to pound ratio is much, much better for private boaters. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's more rafts per person on private trips. Like a private trip with 20 people has 24 rafts.
And inflatable kayaks. And yeah.
What's this referring to? I lost this conversation.
Yeah, he's talking about just getting better. Totally agree. Yeah. With competent people. Yeah. That part of the experience of practice, Zach. That's a key. Yeah, Zach Finney. That's a key part of the experience of practice is to do it with other people, and then afterwards, back, dude, what happened?
The debrief.
Especially debrief it around. Having a beer, had some pizza, and just talking about what happened there and what you guys thought. And everyone saw it a little differently. And you're like, oh, really? Oh, I didn't realize that happened to me. You're like, yeah, dude, the boat did this. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yep. Debriefing is huge. Took 2 guy training. It was good. Not all young guys, mostly good. So Bruce took a couple of our courses. Most not. Yeah, I think.
So if you're talking about Zach's courses, they're not designed for people being guides.
Yeah.
If you're talking about other courses, I think you got lucky then in terms of. I mean, I'd say about half the students on the pro guide schools I teach want to be guides, and the other half don't usually.
That's how we ended up.
About 50.
It was half and half, and I was like, it was just oil and water. I'm sorry, keep bringing that up.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
I get reps. Kidding. So I can't read your chart. I don't get it.
She's going up her run, so she can't read the chart. She's got to get fit.
Got it. Okay. Oh, she's listening to it. Whoa, that's crazy, Heidi. Heidi's definitely fit. She has that down. That's crazy. Okay, yeah, Heidi, the chart. Watches the chart later. Man,
that explains her question.
That explains it way more. I was just like, are you kidding me?
Aaron Tippett, what?
Yeah, that's really crazy.
The real Aaron Tippett,
the legend.
Man, nice to see that name.
Man, talk about somebody could teach us all something. Sierra's gets hit spot. Cool, that's sweet. Sierra Rescue. I think they have some. They've started to develop courses specifically designed for types of boaters. It's like commercial guide, expert level. I think they have a private boater course. So having a course designed for your thing that's taught by somebody who gets it is super important. right? Like somebody who has been a private boater or is a private boater and understands that world, teaching, I think, is huge. And I think Sierra Rescue has that. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, it's cool to see your name too.
Yeah, that's crazy. We should get you on the show. Dunning, do you know what this sounds like? We need Dustin on the show to explain what the Dunning-Kruger effect is.
Yeah, I'm guessing. Yeah, overconfident, underexperienced. Yeah, I think Todd, that's yeah. I think it sounds like you're agreeing with Zach about the importance of experience and practice. Definitely, and I'll say, it's funny. Like I've worked for certain places, and people would be upset that other people would move above them and get to run harder rivers. And like, why don't I get to? I've been guiding as many years as this person's been guiding. Well, that other person is going and kayaking all winter, and they're working more trips, and like they're on the water like 3 or 4 times as much. And you definitely see, like, in general, the people who spend more time on the water are better at it. I mean, I feel like there's a huge correlation.
Have you ever heard of the term overqualified? Like there's different types of, if you want to stereotype boaters, there's ways to stereotype them. And one of them is like a crunchy. Have you heard me do it? Like a crunchy is like, like super granola hippies.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then there's like the jock types who are just like, like the, like the bros. There's like the crunchies and the bros. And the bros are just like, they speak a different language. And they're just like all about being rad and drinking beer and whatever. And then there's the overqualifieds. And the overqualified are the people who have way too much education, but not a lot of, like, they go do stuff, but not enough practical experience. They understand what's in the book, but not what's in reality.
They can discuss it theoretically for hours at a party. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at all boaters, you can almost put them all under either crunchy, bros, or overqualified. That's a great way to stereotype people if you're into that kind of thing.
So which ones are we bros?
Yeah. We're on YouTube. Of course we're bros. I don't know what we are. Cool. That's Peter. Thanks for sharing that. Yep. I did a Rescue 3 class once. It wasn't with firefighters, but the people in the course really brought the level down. They weren't they were just taking it for fun almost, and they weren't really boaters. And it's just really like, yeah, it was a great instructor, great course, but I was just like, man, I wish these people weren't here because it would have been a better class. And it is the American Canoe Association. So they are based on rivers. Yeah.
So I think I'll say that's a concern again, is like, if you're trying to teach one course for canoers, rafters, and kayakers, they're still really different. And like, you want
a raft specific course.
You want
a kayak specific course. Yeah. But I think they have raft.
I mean, Peter, I agree. What you're saying is way better than when the firefighters in it. It's just like, that's a whole different can of worms. But even within that, I would see, like, if I'm a rafter, I want to take one for rafters. I don't need to hear a bunch about how to unwrap my canoe or or kayaking this, kayaking that. I mean, it's kind of nice to know a little bit about them and how they can rescue. But I think going back to Zach's point, that's not what's going to save most people. Is more just the knowledge of, like, for rafting, to be like, how do you keep people on the raft and keep that raft upright? That seems like there should be a lot of talk about that, and maybe there is a lot of talk about that in the Swiftwater course. But if the Swiftwater course doesn't go into that at all, I think, like, you're missing a key point, is keeping people out of the water. That's the number one gain.
Again, I wish it was an ACA river safety course. Like, not everybody has to be a rescue hero, but everybody should be safe and understand, have basic agreements on what river safety is. And that's completely skipped over.
And I think that's the part too, like, Zach is overemphasizing not having the technical stuff just because people come out of the class. That's what they talk about all the time. That's what we hear about. We see the guys that come like, oh, it was super cool. They don't talk about, oh yeah, man, we did a lot of swimming. Yeah, I got so much better at my swimming. No, even if they took that ACA class where there was a lot of swimming about, they're going to be talking about the rope stuff they did and all the rope work, and they're going to be so focused on the technical stuff. And and I think that's our concern, is people not recognizing. And the problem for the people teaching the courses is, hey, this is what the students want. The students want to learn the technical stuff. That's what they feel like they're getting Swiftwater. And I think we're trying to change the paradigm so that people are like, hey, I need to be learning the swimming. I need to be learning how to keep people in the boat. I need to be learning the fundamentals more. And so making it easier for those instructors to teach what they probably want to be teaching, but there's this disconnect, I feel like, a lot of times.
And I boat a lot, and I see a lot of stupid things. A lot of stupid things done by people who've taken Swiftwater rescue classes. I'm just like, how do I? And I'm like, how do I solve? Why don't people not know these fundamental things about safety? And it's because nobody ever teaches them, ever. I learned them all. I mean, I learned them all from you, Aaron. I mean, I learned them all when our guide school that we did at Davis. You guys hammered us on this stuff. You put us in the water all the time. You made boats get people. Like we swam the South Fork almost. Like we swam Troublemaker. We swam. I'm pretty sure we swam Satan's. We swam Hospital. We swam Haystacks every day. We went through it. Like we swam a lot. We didn't swim meat grinder, but we swam a lot and we picked out swimmers and we focused on boat spacing and boat order. And that's why it's hammered. One of the reasons it's hammered so hard at me. And it's just not taught anywhere anymore. It's taught in guide classes probably. But
I think it can be emphasized more there too, Zach.
No guide school. I mean, very few guide schools these days make people swim as much as you guys made us swim.
Yeah.
It's just like it's actually kind of like dangerous how much you guys made us swim. Like
but I mean, I think a lot of people are scared of falling in. And if I remember correctly, you guys decided to do some extra swimming on your own the last day. A lot of extra swimming.
I like swimming. Yeah, that was funny. Man, I would say I would change this a little bit.
IK leads to hard shelling, leads to rowing.
I don't think IK leads to hard shelling. I think people hard shell and then they get out of shape and then they IK. I mean, I've gone through that myself. Like I've gone through phases where I'm like put on 20 pounds and like, I'm not getting my kayak. I'm going to IK next month. Yeah. IKing leads to hard shell. I don't know many people who started Jacob Cruiser did. There's not many people who like IK'd and then got into hard shelling, at least in my experience. But
yeah, I don't know a lot of people who've gone that route either. Yeah. I feel like people who want to like learn to hard shell kayak, they get in there and they get beat down and they take some beatings to get there.
There's no sweep boat footage in the wind yet. We needed a sweep boat that we can destroy, and we're working on it. Mark, Now we're talking. Hey, Mark, I think I'm going to row tomorrow, but we can find you an R2 partner if you want R2. Sean's question of sweep boat footage. That's funny.
Yep.
You can find people to pay you to paddle guide. There's no other way to hit the giant holes.
I agree. That's what I think when I'm paddle guiding on certain big waters. I'm like, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. It's amazing. I got a bunch of people working for me. I've got a bunch of my sled dogs up front, and I get to whip them down the river. And they get to run all these, and we get to run all these big, huge waves. Totally, Steve.
I took a paddle boat down into a big hole this spring and regretted it immediately. Yeah. Private paddle rafting smaller too is fairly common. Huh, that's cool. Huh. I mean, everything I know about the Southeast comes from Mark Rivers. And all Mark's saying is all the people do out there is row. Mark's comment is rowing is growing. There we go. I mean, Arnie, good to see Arnie. Arnie owns a commercial company in the South Fork. So we definitely have an expert here.
I agree with Arnie. I agree with the statement because I'm going to say this is like, particularly if you're a commercial, I think if you're not a commercial guy, then it's not the same. But when you're a commercial guy doing a lot of paddle boat trips and then you try to take your friends, it's just super annoying. I'd rather take
That's my whole point, Aaron.
Because the commercial people listen to you. They do it. But I think if you're a commercial guy, that's you. Like my friend who's never been a commercial guide ever, he loves doing it, taking his friends. And they probably take hours to get ready to go on the trip.
I can't deal with
takes a long time.
Maybe because when I'm at work and I'm like, hey, I need you guys, like people listen to me. When I'm not at work, I don't want to be telling people, I need you, like, come on, don't be late. Put your stuff on over here. I don't want to be like hurting people when I'm not at work. And it really bothers me when we're all waiting for one person to get a latte. Like, dude, really? Like, You're 20 minutes late because you got a latte.
All right, Mark Rivers, let's Zach know tomorrow. You need to stop for a latte.
Mark knows. Anybody that boats with me here knows I get super frustrated with janglers. Our sport is so diversified. I never run Whitewater. Huh? Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It is very diversified. That's what I'm saying. I used to not mind it, but at this point, I'm very. What's the word when you're like not cocky, but you're like stuck up?
I think it's really fun. Yeah, arrogant.
No way, arrogant. No, there's like a word. Anyway,
okay. Anyways,
I can't say
Zach. I love battling for other people. The only thing I don't like battling for other people, I have two issues. When they have me paddle a ton, just nonstop, and you have to paddle flat water and they can't hold the boat straight. Otherwise, I love it. It's always an adventure. You get in there, and that's like why I love teaching paddle boat guide schools. They're like, I don't know what they're going to do. And you start paddling, and you're just like, paddle hard. Let's see what happens here. And you're like, oh, this man, no, I don't think this is going to work. And then sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. I think it's really fun. It's fun.
I mean, I think when you're teaching people, it's fun because you can give them feedback, and it's fun to give feedback and teach people. When you're just literally in somebody's boat and they're telling you what to do and you don't get to give them feedback, strong pass.
Oh, I still think that's fun. Yeah, I disagree.
No
and Zach, I think you can also run the paddle boat. You can go. What's the term? Paddle at will style, which makes paddle rafting way more fun.
Sure.
Where everyone just does whatever stroke they want, whatever they want.
Yeah, but not many people know that. Not many people do that.
Well, I think that's a great one.
I think one interesting thing. I think a lot of people. One of the issues we haven't brought up is a lot of people have a hard time finding people to boat with that are similarly minded. They do, especially in Oregon, because it's just spread out. And I think people struggle finding boaters. And one of the things I'm most proud about our classes is people do meet other boaters. And then they have a foundation of working together in safety moving forward. Like we have a guy who's taken some of our classes and he has a whole new boating crew based on people he met in our different classes. And they go out and they send me photos all the time. Like, I did this river, we did that river. They did the middle fork, this whole crew, like really cool. But he's like, the cool thing is like, we learned a way to boat that we feel is responsible. And we see other groups out there and they're just like their boats are way off. There's no safety. And they're like, we see this like way of doing this that's responsible. And then we see other groups that aren't doing that. And we really appreciate that we all have this same language. And so that's something I'm really proud of, is that we can teach like a language and a way of boating. Yeah.
I think it's, yeah.
Oh, Bruce did these.
Cool.
Oh, Bruce did. I forgot he did do Real Guide School. That's cool.
I'm going to say, Peter, I think your continued questions on it were really helpful. So like, I realized we weren't really making it as clear as we need to. So thanks for coming back to that a couple of times. I think now, hopefully, yeah, everyone kind of understands what we want out of it. Is definitely not trying to say that it's bad to get Swiftwater training. It's more what it is. Would you say, Zach?
Sorry, I was reading comments. I didn't hear anything you said.
I don't know. What is this? What is this? What is this comment about?
Because Mark's comment to me the other day that I loved was rowing is growing. It rhymes. I think it's cute, but it doesn't mean everybody's rowing. People do paddle boat or doing stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man, Aaron and I need to get to the Akoi.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
agree.
It'd be fun to do a show from the Akoi. Yep. Thanks, Sean.
Take care,
thanks
Sean.
for being a part of it. Sometimes the kids paddle rafting, they're super. Yeah, I mean, it's super nice that people do it. Like but I just
yeah. You're a special person. Will be willing to do that.
Yeah,
like that.
You're doing God's work. You're doing God's work. After the 10th time of doing it, you're like, dude, like somebody says they're gonna come because you need them to come. And then when so-and-so bails at the last minute, you're like, oh, well, frustrating. Interesting.
Oh, maybe I misunderstood the last comment. I don't understand this. Oh, he loves paddling for his wife. Or
nothing worth sitting in somebody else's boat. That's interesting. It'd be interesting. My wife doesn't guide, but I think I could be into that. So we're caught up with comments, and we're past 2 hours. We should probably wrap this up.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Aaron, but what do you think? I mean, I just did this chart in a rush yesterday, and probably made mistakes. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's a good chart. I think the chart is helpful. Yeah, I think there's a lot of nuance to it too, and I think like finding the right courses for an individual is important. Knowing what they're looking for in terms of the course. Yeah, it looks great though. I don't have much to critique. Once I understood what you're trying to do with it, yeah, it's fantastic. I think it's cool. Yeah, it's really.
I really expected more critique because I did it pretty fast and I didn't think it through 100%.
You had 10 hours of Zoom meetings, so
I actually was in Zoom meetings from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. last night, but with little tiny breaks in between. It was basically 11 hours of being in meetings.
Okay,
but I was doing other stuff too. I was like emailing people and texting people, and anyway, let's get these comments shut down. Yeah, I definitely am into rowing with people paddling, because if they don't show up, you can still go. Like
you can't still go anyways. Wait, you can't R3 it? You can't R2 it? You can't R4 it? How many people do you need for your paddle boat to work, Zach?
It's more fun for me to row anyway. I want to be in charge. I'm the word isn't arrogant, it's not cocky, it's not spoiled, but there's a word I'm looking for. I'm just I boat enough to where like
you want to be in control.
I want to be in complete control. I don't even want to even deal with it.
What's the fun about that? That's fun about paddle boating is you're not in complete. I actually see, Aaron. That's funny. Is like I feel like the stern mount's harder on my back, and I prefer paddle guiding because I just sit back there and call commands and don't do anything.
No way. Yeah, you don't really do much. You just
I don't have to get the oars, rig the frame. I just pump up the boat, those valves in, let's go. It's way easier. That's interesting. Like I understand why you'd like the stern mount better, but I prefer the paddle.
I'm with Aaron 100%.
Yeah,
I don't even want any like. It depends who you're going with. Like if it was like you and Dan and all those guys, straight paddle boat. Let's go get in some trouble, right? But if it's like for like acquaintances, it's like all right. Like I took some people down the Crooked a couple years ago, and there's no way I'm paddle boating that. I want control of the boat. I don't want to like. But if it was me, you, and Dan, or some other people, I'd want to paddle boat because we can just get in trouble.
Okay. We got what you got.
IRF is the International Rafting Federation, and they can certify as like a rafter, a raft guide, or trip leader, or safety kayaker and stuff.
Is that like Star Trek for rafting?
That's interstellar. This is international. So it's Aaron and I have gotten involved, and we're both instructors for the IRF, and it's a really good program. It's something it's useless in the US because nobody really cares about it. But I think I'm having our guides go through this more and more because it's just really good way to check people's skills and provide additional training where they have holes.
Okay, yeah, Bear, when you're talking about kids, I wasn't thinking about kids. Yeah, with kids, definitely. Yeah, I was thinking like adults. Yeah, definitely the kids start off with the raft,
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you have to carry it up the hill at the end, Barrett.
My take is if it's acquaintances, stern mount. If it's close friends, the paddle boat. I'm with. If it's like close friends, it's really fun. Yeah, thanks, Steve. That was a good. Like you brought us some good discussion points there. We appreciate your comments and letting us push back a little bit and having a good conversation. Why would we be traumatized? Because there's so much carnage. That's what we want. I'm already traumatized by the Echo. I've watched so much footage of people just almost dying there and not getting. Agree. Most people's bottleneck is not getting experience, is not having experienced people to.
And not having experience.
So what he's saying is like, that's the problem is like some people can't get the experience because they shouldn't solo boat. It's just not having enough people to boat with. And Mike, I watch a lot of people get into boating and learn and make their way. And I did a Gear Garage about this recently. It's about being, to me, in my opinion, this is about being an asset or liability. Be somebody people want to boat with, right? Like, have your own equipment. Maybe like you don't have to have all these things, but like if you have a truck that with a trailer, you're an asset. If you show up and your boat's rolled and everybody has to wait for you, you're slow, you're a liability. Like have a safety kit on the river, provide safety. Don't expect a safety net. So the more you're valuable to the team, the more people are going to vote for you. The less you're valuable to the team, the less they're going to vote with you. And so if you want to go run the Illinois and you're not experienced, well, you're a liability. So you need to develop that skill on like your level of water, make friends, make a team, get experience, be an asset with that group, and be somebody who people want to boat with. What do you think, Aaron?
Totally agree. Or be really funny or bring lots of beer.
It'd be just fun to be around and interesting and like, or bring beer, like little things like having takeout beer, like it's just
bribe your friend.
Yeah. Like just do the nice things for people, like little details.
Yeah.
I have. I think way too many people. Yeah. I think I don't know if he's much sarcastic, but the drinking culture around boating is just out of control.
Okay. You guys can do your stern mounts. Yeah.
Great show. Thanks, Zach. Thanks for being a part of it. All right, last comment. We're done. IK, kids love it. Never discounting.
Nice, Barrett. Yeah.
Yep. It's cool. Barrett, it's nice having all your comments.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron, we did it 2.5 hours almost. What? I'm glad you had some time.
Kill me. So yeah, she's being very understanding. She's probably she's probably happy to hear that we're finishing. Great show today, Zach. And hey, you guys, thanks for all those comments again. And if you haven't hit that like button, please hit that like button. Of course, subscribe and ring that bell so you get notifications anytime Zach puts anything new on the Gear Garage channel. So it's not, you don't have to deal with all this Northwest rafting stuff anymore.
Yeah. But and the other thing, because there's ring the bell, subscribe, like, and the new thing, which is
notifications.
Become a member.
Oh yeah, become a member. That's right. Sorry, become a member. Yep. Yeah, I forgot about the become a member. So and so next week we'll be back again.
I'll be in Vegas at an Outfitter show, so we'll do it live from the Outfitter show next week.
Ooh.
Maybe I'll try to get some gear, like all the manufacturers. Maybe I'll try to get somebody from Sotar or like Sawyer or something to join in. Make it interesting.
They're going to be fighting, Zach. They're going to be fighting for a chance to get the show.
No. Actually, I think for next Friday, everybody's putting their booths away. So I'll probably have to be like, stop. When they start putting their booths away, they're 1 foot's out the door. Yeah. So it's going to be hard to get somebody to join in.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks again, guys, and have a great week.